Greetings, people. How are we on this fine Sunday morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you are in the world? I personally have had about 4 hours sleep since Friday. Joys of children, but still looking good on my blown out, washed out camera because this thing and this thing won't link. Anyway, how are we all doing? How is everyone doing? How is everyone doing? How is everyone doing? Early gang, early gang. How are people? How are we doing? Hello, Dan. How are we doing? How are we doing? Gary's here. Booyah. I can't swear, Gary. My mangrove enclosure opened last night. Luckily, everyone was in there. That's what you get for, you're very lucky that you have moles for lizards, because if they were like tree monitors, they'd be gone. Right, who else is in? How are we doing? Microverse, hello. Greetings, fellow life forms. Thank you for tuning in with us today. How are you doing? How are we doing? Tree, yes. Hello, Tree. We'll have to miss the beginning. Sad times, Tree. I imagine we'll be here for a little while anyway, so. Right, Serenity, how are we doing? Fellow cult members, how are we all doing? Hello, Matt, we're here. I don't know what's going on, but Fee's doing something with Lego. Alpha Exotics, how are you doing, my friend? Thank you for tuning in. Not really. Mr. Scandinavian Guanas is here. How are we doing, Mr. Scandinavian? Hello, buddy. Thank you for tuning in. Right, I think that's everybody. So let's get some housekeeping out of the way, and then let's get this podcast. So first things first, you beautiful people. Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much to everyone. Oh, it's not working. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone over there at Patreon who support me that little bit more than a like, comment, share, and a subscribe. If you guys want to join the private Discord and sort of catch up with all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, for example, I've just had an animal pit in the reptile room today. What is that animal? Who knows? Patreon knows. So yeah, all the rewards are the same. It's just pretty much the exclusive Discord. All tiers give you the same rewards from as little as £1 a month. You can join and come and talk absolute nonsense with a bunch of reptile enthusiasts. So, thank you very much, Patreon. Obviously, we also have where is it? It is here. Now, shameless self-plug. HabiStat. You all know that I'm the face of HabiStat now. It is a brand that I believe in, and it's why I now work for them. So if you guys do want to check out HabiStat, please feel free. I haven't made a fancy thing yet, so face of how it kind of works. But yeah, for all enclosures, decorations, substrates, everything you need for your reptiles, amphibians, insects, please check out HabiStat. And there'll be some great stuff coming over the coming years. So make sure you keep an eye on the social medias. Go over there, give us a like and a follow. And then finally, responsible reptile keeping. You're damn right. Solly says, join responsible reptile keeping. This is not just a UK thing. This is worldwide. People are coming for our beloved pets. If you want to help protect the hobby and industry that we love so much, please check out Responsible Reptile Keeping. They are great guys and girls over there. They made me a fancy poster that I need to hang up. I absolutely love it. So check them out. Links in the description. For as little as £4 a month, I believe, you can help fight the good fight to save our pets. So let's finish checking the chat because there's 15 comments. I also need to blow my nose at some point. But a sniff will do nonetheless. Mike. Hello, Mike. Right, bear with me, everyone. I'm just going to mute my mic for 2 seconds. Professional, as ever. So, hello, Mike. How are we doing? What's going on? Saw that face and booty of HabiStat. Bee's a lucky girl. What can I say? Sex appeal. Best believe. Wow, Daffy Reptiles is here. Hello. Right. Anyway, let's introduce today's co-host, Mikkel. Hello.
Yo. Hiya.
How are you doing? You all right?
I like how you just subtly dropped that new stuff's coming. I feel like it's going to be a long wait, but
I don't know what you're on about.
Exciting times.
I don't know what you're on about. I cannot say or deny anything. Just keep your eyes peeled, everyone. All right? If you want some cool stuff, You know, maybe send me ideas and also just keep your eyes peeled. That's it. Done. Can't say more.
Are you going to
less.
start sending out posters of slowly telling everyone to join RRK?
Am I going to
Can we
start
all get a
sending
post out?
Apparently, my camera is really bad. I look fine on my screen. Do I look
You're
bad?
blurry on mine.
You're blurry on mine. This is not good. Oh well. It's probably just the internet, if I'm honest. Oh well. If you can hear our voices, that's fine. Okay. Anyway. How's your weekend been? You alright?
Yeah, not too bad. Kept busy. I've just started working weekends again, so kind of adjusting life. But
Let me try
yeah.
this. Hang on. Wow. Is that better?
Oh,
Close up.
that's
Now.
a zoom and a half.
Am I better? Do I look good? Or am I still blurry? Are you frozen? You back? Am I blurry? Am I better?
You were better, and then you went blurry again. Slightly better.
Oh mate.
Oh.
Anyway,
It's gonna be one of those nights.
still, I don't care. Literally, this thing is supposed to link up seamlessly. Watch it work now. Watch. Hang on. All right, the guest is patiently waiting. We're here checking out our phones. All right. Wait. Watch it work. No, doesn't work.
So I'm just oh, something's happening.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry.
No, I'm just waiting for my breeding season to start. I feel like I'm on like egg lookout every day at the moment. Or
my breeding season, somehow I have three Aki clutches on the ground this year. I have a fourth one on the way. I have 2 Gillenite clutches on the ground, and I have 2 more on the way. I don't know how my season started so early. But...
No, I've got a lot of fat females that all seem to still be wanting to pound as much food as possible. So,
well, we'll get into touching on breeding seasons because we spoke about it with the guest. And speaking of the guest, let's introduce said guest. So we have Fadi from Daffy's Reptiles.
What's up, everyone? How you guys doing?
How you doing, mate? You all right?
By the way, you're clearer now, and then you go blurry again. Then it's coming in and it's going.
I think it's my internet. If I'm completely 100% honest with everybody,
okay.
It says I have full Wi-Fi, but
you're still beautiful. It's okay. Don't worry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're beautiful. fellow bearded trio. And I am pronouncing your name correctly. It's Fadi, yeah?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. That's fine. And then Daffy's Reptiles. I probably should know this, but what's the origin of Daffy's Reptiles? Where did the name come from?
So Daffy was a bit of a nickname in high school. And then I moved to Canada, and I was like, nobody's gonna be able to say Fadi. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go with Daffy's. And then I was doing a lot of stuff with reptiles. Fun fact, I regret both the Daffys and the reptiles now. I should have just went with my name and something else because it feels very like, you know, now I gotta only work with reptiles, not all exotics or whatever it is. And I mean, you're monitors, so if you narrow it down, we're gonna change your name to Paul's Geckos by the end of this episode. But
maybe not. Sadly for me, I self badly, but we will get into stenos, people. Little spoilers. I still have the stenos, and they are plump. Like they are gravid.
It's the season. It's the season. Yeah. I just got my first egg a couple of weeks ago.
Nice, man. Nice. We'll touch on them because I love them. I think they're great, but we will touch on them. But how are you? How was your weekend? You were just saying that it's nice to not be busy. So how
man, I'm chilling for the first time in a long time because Expo season is here, and I've been doing a lot of expos like almost every weekend. It feels like. And none of them are in my city, so I have to do a lot of driving. So this last weekend was chilling back home. Catching up on reptile stuff, you know, it's all good. How about you guys? How are you guys doing?
Yeah, Michael, you can take that away because we were kind of asking on your weekend.
Yeah, just I've just finished work, so I've just went back to weekend work. So a bit of a change of lifestyle at the moment. My partner is very, very close to giving birth, so we were trying to like work things out. So yeah, so a bit of a busy week, but not too bad. I was saying to Paul, I'm really hoping I seem to be going into the reptile room every day looking for eggs because it's just that right time. I've got a few live. I've got pink tongue skinks, and she's due to drop live birth any day. So it's just kind of waiting on those things. But
It's one of those things where you go in every few hours instead of every day at this point.
pretty much.
What species are you waiting on next for?
Frill dragons, Timor monitors. The Akis could drop any time, to be fair, and then potentially Kimberly Rocks. I'm still not 100% sure on my female, but
Okay,
few different things.
that's awesome.
And then the pink tongues should be giving birth. Two babies, twins.
Oh,
Um,
so what you should be doing right now is getting all the sleep you can get.
And a toddler. So
yeah, well, I've got a toddler upstairs. My female pink tongue's quite consistent. It's always like the kind of last week of April, and sometimes the first couple of days of May she'll always drop a litter. So I'm a bit early just now, but you never know with these things if she's going to go early. But
are the babies also due in the last week of April?
Yeah, so the baby pink tongue.
No, I'm your baby.
She can go anytime, and anytime now. I might pull a Riddler and have to leave early.
yeah, it's all going at the minute. Like, not for me. Fine, no more kids. I can't. I'm done. So I'm fine. But I've literally, when you said the news to me, you're like, oh yeah, me and Mrs. we're gonna have another little baby. I was like, oh, congrats. You're like, 2 babies. Let's go. Congrats. How do you plan for that stuff?
You don't. My living room's full of just 2 of everything. That's what it is.
Just like having a big collection of reptiles.
Yeah, at least you have lots of help in like 5 to 10 years. When they're actually old enough that you can trust them. I showed my son today the little. Well, it's only Aki monitors. I've got Aki's pipping, but the little Aki head sticking out of an egg, and he was like, oh, and he was like looking down at the sim container, and he's looking down. It's quite cool that he's actually he's nearly 7, so he's only just getting into the animals. He's been obsessed with bugs forever, but yeah, if it be, it will be.
Holly loves spraying the enclosures. She'll go around with a big spray can, spraying everyone. That's what she enjoys doing.
Michael is clear and handsome. There you go, Michael.
Thanks, Serenity.
'Tis the season. People are here for you, my friend. People are tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's before we get to the quick part, I do want to just touch on it briefly, because obviously you do a lot of expos and you're the face of the Canadian Reptile Expo. Do you get a lot of people obviously recognize you, or is it just very much, oh, it's just Fadi, it's just what he does? Is it sort of just part and parcel now, or like
I think it's a little bit of both. At the expos, I think it's very much like, oh, it's just Fadi, it's what he does. But then you can go into a reptile store and it's that expo guy. So it's a little bit of both depending where I'm at. Yeah, but it's fun. It's a fun job. Keeps me busy.
How did you end up getting into it?
I was just doing some of they were trying to get a bunch of the influencers more involved in it. And then through that, I was speaking to the team and they were like, oh, we're actually hiring for like a social media position. I'm like, yeah, actually, I'm not doing anything. Why not? And it's been like a year and a bit now. Yeah. A year and a month or something.
Yeah.
Do you have?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have many expos? Like quite often.
Yeah.
So
the company's first of all is Canadian Pet Expo. So we do both pet expos and reptile expos. But yeah, we have a reptile expo almost every month in Toronto.
Mad.
Yeah.
Busy.
It's busy. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's some months when there's like a pet expo and the reptile expo. Or like in June we're doing Ottawa. So like it's Ottawa and then Toronto in the same month, or usually we don't know if that's going to happen, but usually it's back to back expos. So it gets busy for sure.
I can imagine.
They're always so much fun, and they're always packed.
What do we have, like 3 a year, if that?
Well, the main one, so IHS used to do 4 spread out through the year. That got reduced to 2 after COVID. So there's only 2, and then they tried to make a third one, which was a different location. but that got cancelled, so now it's just back to two big ones. And obviously there's little ones dotted around the place, but yeah, we've got two dates, one in June and one in September.
So that's like the big one, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so we only have really a big one like once a year, like the Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo. I feel like you guys are more spread out. So like you have little ones more spread out, whereas we like it's fairly easy for everyone to get to Toronto or at least all the people in Ontario. So those are like the little ones, but yeah, they tend to happen in the same location.
Yeah, we only have two. We have the ARC show, which is a little one, and then we have the IHS, which is the big one. That's it. Like there's invert shows. We have lots of bug shows.
Yeah, our laws are different. So you're not allowed to sell. There's a lot of our laws around selling off of like live animals off of tables. So it's a bit more difficult.
There's a lot of grey areas around animal welfare and husbandry and
stuff.
Is that citywide or like countrywide?
Just for the country. Yeah, for the whole country.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, so basically you're not allowed to sell a pet unless you're a business. Okay, so we sell projects or like breeder animals. You're not allowed to sell a pet unless you're registered as a business, but you're not allowed to sell an animal off of a car boot table, like a stall, if you're a business. So legally, there's no way you can do it. Yeah. So you're not allowed to be registered as a business, but then you're also not allowed to sell pets. So it's surplus breeding stock.
Okay, so you're always claiming you're selling to other breeders.
Yeah. So it's a membership event, but you could pay for your membership at the door.
Yeah, which isn't technically right. And then also here in the UK, if you make over £1,000, your class is a business. Some people are selling royals over £1,000 at the shows where you're not allowed to be a business. But anyway, I don't want the show to get cancelled, so I'm going to stop it there. So
we'll talk about that offline because now I'm curious.
No, that's fine. It's so many loopholes. It's
interesting.
But because the bug shows are obviously they're invertebrates, so it's different. So like in the UK, we're not allowed to post vertebrates. So like in America, I don't know about Canada to be fair, but in America, you just put an animal in a box in FedEx and it gets shipped across the country and then you get it. Whereas in the UK, you have to pay for a registered, licensed, heated courier to transport a vertebrate animal. Okay. So because obviously bugs can be posted, you can host, have bug shows. And I've never been to one of the bug shows, but week today, there's one 45 minutes from my house. So I have an appointment in the morning, but I'm thinking about going in the afternoon just to check it out, to be fair.
It's worth it.
I just went to my first one like a couple of weeks ago. It's worth it.
I'm thinking I'm going to go. I'm worried that I'm going to get back into scorpions, though, and I don't really have money, and I've got a lot of stuff going on that I definitely can't waste money on scorpions.
Don't pick up any more isopods. Don't go down that rabbit hole again.
I'll get back into scorpions. Octopus with no friends. Cool name, but you have friends now. You're here. You're part of the gang. Thank you for tuning in. Right. Anyway, everyone. We've already sort of pre-warned ourselves. This is going to be a very ADHD podcast. Any questions that anyone may have, please drop them in, and I will read the chat. But quick fire questions.
Okay, hit me.
Would you rather more space or more time when it comes to reptile keeping?
More time.
What is your favorite species you currently keep?
Acansora capra, one of the species of mountain horn dragons.
Nice.
These guys.
The logo, the champion.
Yes.
In your collection, who is your favorite individual if you have one?
My reptiles are lucky they can't hear it, right? And they'll be listening to this podcast right now. Probably one of I know I shouldn't have favorites, but probably one of the males. It's between my male carpet python or one of the male Acansora capras, just because he has so much and we've talked about this. Personality is not the right word, but he interacts with me more than any of my other reptiles. So there you go. Making me pick between my children.
Well, for me, it's Mango. It's just easy. Everyone else can get, but now my little black tree is coming up close. But Mango is just it's just mango. Everyone else, like, I'll say it to their face. It's mango. say it to my girlfriend as well. Phoebe, but yeah, it's mango. Say it to my son. It's mango.
It's mango. Yeah, yeah.
It's mango.
I think I already knew that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's mango, ride or die for life. Okay, what is one thing that you don't particularly like about the reptile hobby?
All the fighting, man. Too much drama. Too many people going off at each other online. Because it's funny because I go to so many expos. I see the community in person, and none of that exists.
Yeah,
and then you drive home and you turn on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and it's all just so negative. So it's like, why can't we be civil online too? But yeah, that all the fighting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But what's one thing you do like about the reptile hobby?
I'll flip that. The community. Yeah. Talking to people, being like, man, all the people, man. Like, there's so many awesome people in the community, and so many awesome people keeping really cool species, and just nerding out with those people about those species is the best thing ever.
Yeah, this is why I started the podcast, to be honest, just to talk all night about reptiles.
Yeah.
What is it can be obtainable or not obtainable, but if money, time, energy was no issue, what is your dream species?
One of the larger, like, iguanas, but not the green iguana, like a rock iguana or something.
Yeah, it's like
either that or like either that or a tegu. I want a big lizard that will interact with me, but just not yet, and not anytime soon.
I see you always playing with Wilma.
Exactly.
You're not going with the savannah. Yeah.
Honestly, and there's a bunch of babies for sale right now, and I've convinced myself not to do it, but and only because I'm not convinced that any savannah can be, like, I've seen videos of yours, and I've seen videos, and I've interacted with Wilma, but then I've seen videos of crazy things, and I'm like, if it ends up like that, I'm not the right person to get it from that to what Wilma or yours is, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I need.
They're normally pretty good. They do normally calm down. I've seen some stateside that they're not kept properly, and then they end up being twats. But if you give them time,
you know what I need to do? You know how people like purchase dogs and then give them to trainers for a couple of weeks and then get the dogs like perfect angels? I'll just purchase the savannah, give it to Greg, have him train it, and then I'll be like, all right.
Come back in 6 months.
Come back in 6 months and be like, sit. Amazing. Yeah.
Play dead.
Fetching snails.
Yeah.
Bring them back. God,
honestly, I'm convinced Wilma knows, like she responds to her name, like comes to you and all that. Yeah.
My one will come if you sort of tap on the door, and it feels the vibrations and it knows it's going to get fed, so it just keeps runs right over. Yeah, literally, yeah. So just quickly, hello Chris, mate, how are you? Hope you're well. And hello Chelsea, I did notice you were in and I forgot to say hello, so hello, thank you for tuning in.
Hey Chelsea. I'm convinced you and Ryan should definitely get a monitor. 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up for that.
Monitors, like 8.
And you're in the right place to ask those questions.
Well, they're just the best. They just are. But on savannas, would you stop wild imports today? Yes or no? Not of savannas, just of full stop animals. But they're always wild imports. That's why I made the transition.
No.
And
I almost don't want to explain myself, just so I
don't
can
have to.
Just no. I don't. I feel like there should be a way for it to be even more regulated than it already is. But fresh blood in the hobby every now and then is definitely useful. And also, I'm not done getting my mountain horn dragons. So at least if we're gonna block it off, wait till I get to all the mountain horn dragons I need, and then. I think it can be done better for sure. I think there needs to be more laws, maybe not more laws, more responsible people doing it, or it being done more carefully, or it being less accessible to the average person. Because I
think that's the main thing. When the animals come into the country, that they're going to the right people, not just being sold off as pets. I think that's
Exactly.
such an important part of it.
Yeah, if they're just coming in and they're just gonna go to somebody that gonna have one individual animal and just have it for the rest of their life or its life. I mean, like, it's great, somebody's caring for it well and all of that stuff, but it's not being used for the right purposes. Even though not that we're using these animals, and not that
No, I know what you mean.
the wording was wrong there, but
if there's a captive bred alternative, then you shouldn't be having a wild caught individual in your home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the hobby needs to regulate itself because, like, for example, in the UK, there is no captive mangrove monitors. They don't exist. I have done it now. So I had one for sale. That one is now sold. So now there is no longer any more captive mangroves for sale. So if you want one, you have to buy wild. It just is what it is. But tree monitors, another popular hot topic, a bunch of wild ones come in recently. There's every color here is captive bred. Buy captive bred. It's just
so you don't really need them.
No, don't support the wild trade. They should be going to experienced keepers and breeders, so that animal's sacrifice is worthwhile to keep perpetuating good.
Those are the right words.
Yeah,
those are the words. Yeah, 100%.
Hello, Jonas. How are we doing, my friend? Okay, next one. Mentally strong or physically strong?
Me?
What would you rather be?
Because I was gonna say me neither. But I think I would rather be mentally strong. Yeah.
What do you think is more important? I guess the question is.
Yeah,
being mentally strong or physically strong?
Definitely mentally strong. Yeah.
And then the final one, in your opinion, what is the best pet reptile?
I don't know if it's just me or I didn't hear the rest of that question. It kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry. In your opinion, what's the best pet reptile?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be a little biased, but I'm gonna have to say I'm not gonna say mountain herd dragons because I feel like they're not. Yeah, I can. Sorry. I might actually like stenodactylus, man. They're awesome. They're like, everybody wants leopard geckos and that kind of stuff. I think stenodactylus are the better version of that. They're smaller. You can handle them. They're easier to feed. So I'll go stenodactylus this time. I won't say Akansora, even though
yeah. Well, we can go from there then, because I am let me just bring this picture up on the screen. Let me put myself on full screen for a second so everyone can see. So this was, oh Jesus Christ. Oh no, I'm on this now, aren't I? Haha. This was my group today, and as you can see, they are nice and plump and very, very, very chunky.
Yes.
So fingers crossed, I should be having some eggs from stenodactylus. I had Petrii, and I had some scorpion tail geckos, and I had some Nephrus cinctus, but sadly my granddad decided to become very ill and sadly passed away, and I had very little money and a lot of time off work, so my pulse geckos went down the drain.
Okay,
but the stenos stayed.
Nice.
Because I love them so much.
Good choice.
They stayed, and they're going nowhere. So of all the geckos, I had Nephrus cinctus, which is the just rough knobtail geckos for people that don't like Latin. I had Petrii, which are, again, just elegant sand geckos or whatever you want to call them. And then I had some scorpion tail geckos. And again, I was like, oh, which ones? I need to. And the little stenos were looking at me like wagging their tails like lemurs. And they're like, you can't sell us, Paul. And I'm like, you're right. I can't. You're so cool. So I kept the stenos. And then the point is, Michael used to have a Camphosaurus. So between the two of us, we kind of had your two
nice
favorite species. So we can go off that then. Stenodactylus. How long have you been a stenodactylus man?
I have been a stenodactylus man. I like that. A stenodactylus. Yeah. I'm gonna start calling myself that. I have been a stenodactylus man for just over 3 years, I think, something like that. So I got a random group came in with like. Actually, I used to work at a reptile store, and a random group of them came in, and nobody knew what they were or where they had come from, and they had come from like somebody was selling a bunch of animals, and that group was, I guess, included in them. And I was like, I'm taking them all. And so I think it was 9 of them. And within like 3 or 4 months, they were just like the picture you showed. They were like nice and plump, and they were ready to go. And there wasn't much information. There was one video on YouTube from someone in the UK as well. I can't remember their names, but they had set them up, and I kind of set them up similar to them, and it went well. And then initially I had them in like a big group, and I started splitting them off into groups, and yeah, it became an addiction from there. So I only kept stenodactylus for 3 years, and then like 6 months ago, I picked up stenodactylus petrii, which, by the way, I am not enjoying as much as the stenodactylus so far. I don't know why. So I agree with the decision you made, Paul, because honestly, there's something about the stenodactylus. It's so like, and I don't know if it's the size or the personality, but the petrii seem lazier almost. They kind of just sit around more often.
Yeah.
Whereas I do see the stenos move, or the stenos move. But yeah, so long-winded answer, but around 3 years, just over 3 years.
I see Diane post videos of the petri, and he'll feed them like a Morio worm, and they'll stalk it like a monitor, and they'll grab it, and I'm like, oh my god, they're great. And then I got some, and I was like, they're cool, but the stenos are just so much better.
So much better, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though,
they're really cool.
Yeah, there are the petrii, though. The pattern on them is, I think I like it more. Like, it's almost like they look like rock structure with the like red lines and all of that. They're the patterning on them is more interesting. But yeah, like the stenodactylus are more fun to keep, I think.
They are cool, and they're slowly becoming popular.
They are highly in demand here now.
It's
like
good.
I can imagine.
I get messages daily, and people come to the expos and ask, like, it's like one of the most commonly asked questions, like, centers, and they're not available because I think everyone realized how like popular they are. Everyone's just holding on, and I'm going to breed them now, and so they're not available anywhere, and they're not coming in for a while. So they're becoming super popular. I'm just like setting up breeding groups now. I'm like, okay, you can go with you. Yeah, I wonder if at some point even they'll become like how there's like morphs and leopard geckos and crested geckos and all that, because there are a lot of varying patterns in it, and I'm not really interested in morphs and doing that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna probably let somebody else figure it out. I'm just kind of pairing them with like, I like this, but I feel like at some point there could be like they could be worked with like some of the other extremely popular species.
Line bred, and
yeah, I think so.
I think it would be more like the crested geckos, where you're going to line breeding different patterns rather than a new morph popping out, really.
Yeah.
And how many stenos have you got, like, all together?
Honestly, I don't even know. So I like somewhere around 17.
I've got 10.
Okay, yeah. So it's not, because they're so small, you can just you can get so many of them, right?
How big of groups are you keeping them in then? Like, are you keeping them in?
So I'm doing trios. So I have them set up in actually, shout out the Microverse is in the chat. He recently set up a nice little 12-12 for me. So I'm doing I'm doing 12 cubes for them.
Okay.
For trios, and then I also have some pairs in a rack system. And they're not like they eat and they do everything as well, but they're not breeding as fast as the ones in the 12 cubes with the heat lamps on them. So I don't know if there's something to do with heat lamps being more efficient than heat pads or whatever it is.
It's different infrared. So the heat lamp will give you infrared A, which obviously is natural. And then the pads give you infrared C, which is what they would experience in the wild coming out at night on hot sand. They would experience infrared C, but you naturally heat it with infrared A, and then it projects infrared C anyway. So it probably just is a bit more natural what they expect. Is my guess on that.
They're probably going towards and seeking it out based on the light. You know what I mean? Like they can see that that's probably a more heated spot based on the light, whereas when they're in the rack, which I don't think they do as well in there at all. It's the rack I raise the babies in. But then I started getting so many stenodactylus. I was like, okay, you guys
So
have
you
to
need
go
to
in here
just
now. So
split it.
I need to figure something out. So you guys go in here now, and they're all super plump in there too. So now I'm like, I can't move you until you lay your eggs. You're kind of stuck in there. But yeah, they're starting. Everybody, I think every single one of my females is like a month ago they were like normal size, and now all of them look like they're holding like 100 eggs each. Which obviously
They
don't
get
do more
huge,
than
yeah.
a clutch, but they get huge. Yeah, like bigger than you'd expect. And the
Mm.
babies come out bigger than, like, the eggs are tiny and the babies come out like a decent size, like almost half the size of the adults. And you're like, how did you fit in that egg?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
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 The do you take the eggs out and incubate separately and then raise babies separately, or do you just leave them to do their own?
I do. I have never. I tried once to leave an egg in and it didn't make it. So I've been too scared to do it since. So I just pull all the eggs because I know, like, I've had like almost 100% success rate with pulling the eggs. So I'm like, okay, I have a system. I'm not gonna mess with it. But it would be cool to have it because I see it online all the time. Like, people message me and be like, oh, actually, Ryan and Chelsea are in the chat a couple of days ago. They messaged me exactly that. They were like, oh, a baby popped up. So like, I see it so often. I'm like, there must be, like, that must have just been a bad egg, and I'm basing it purely on that. But I don't know. Maybe now that I have so many groups, I'll give it a try again. But no, I take it out and incubate it. I put them on sand, and then I put them on a cup of sand, and then I put that cup of sand in another bigger deli cup with wet, like, vermiculite or reptihatch or whatever. So the humidity is super, super high, but the eggs they stay dry. And then I do it at like 30 degrees Celsius. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
They hatch fast. Yeah.
I'm curious with your 12, 12, 12 cubes, how you've got them set up.
I hold on. I don't know if this will work, but I'll tell you. But I'll also try to show you here because I have, just funny enough, pictures from like yesterday.
And I'm just curious because whenever people talk about obviously heating such a small footprint, trying to get a bulb, a basking spot that doesn't completely flood the entire space, but
so it honestly it doesn't do as much as I would even hope. So now I'm thinking of switching them onto so I'll tell you first because it makes no sense. So I have them on the mini Zoomed heat lamps with a 40-watt bulb in there, and only like the back corner of the 12, 12, 12. So there's like, you can almost see like a spotlight of what's being heated. Yeah, the beam of it. And then there's a UVB strip on the front and an LED above it. But I feel like I don't see them bask like they used to when I had like 50-watt or higher bulbs on them. So I think what I need to do is like move them and put bigger lamps just over the entire thing, and maybe do what's the word I'm looking for? Ceramic heat emitters instead of bulbs, and just have the LED be the lighting and have those constantly be kind of running to heat up the entire enclosure.
That would give you similar to a heat mat in effect, though, because the ceramic heat emitter would only give you the infrared C again. So you would just literally cook the air, and you would project.
What are you using, Paul?
I have a 25-watt. I have a 25-watt nano. So literally with a screw on it, just a tiny nano halogen. I use a 25-watt one.
Okay, yeah.
Lucky Reptile, little tiny nano. Because you can get, I think Expo do them. They're an incandescent lamp and they're tiny, and they're only like 10 or 15 watt. Like, they're designed for the canopy tops.
Yes,
they're just really little incandescent.
They have all the way up to 25 watts.
Even that would probably be better because it's still giving you infrared A, so it's still pressed
rather than a
down
ceramic heat emitter.
Yeah, so maybe even try one of those because you get the go on. Is he frozen?
Did you hear it?
He's not frozen. No,
you cut out at the end of that.
I think we both spoke at the same time. We lagged. Yeah. So what were you saying? I said 25 watt.
I was saying that I'm using a 40 currently, but I think I need hotter than 25, like hotter than 40, like more heat. Yeah.
If you send me a picture of the halogen you have, because there's two types, because you get incandescent and tungstens are hotter per watt than incandescent because the way they're designed.
Okay.
So a tungsten is basically a little tiny glass. You know, obviously you have your filament that gets hot, and then you have a little bit of glass around it inside a bit of glass, and that makes it a tungsten. And then when you just have the filament in a big glass, it's an incandescent. And for example, a 40-watt incandescent would be colder than a 25-watt tungsten. So I use a 25-watt tungsten, so it would get hotter per watt because of the way that it basically works. It bounces around, the energy bounces around inside the little glass and then escapes into the bigger glass, and it's already bouncing a lot rather than just starting to bounce. So you get that's the simple way to explain how it works.
No, that makes sense. Yeah,
if you use a tungsten, because I use a 25-watt tungsten and a 24-watt UVB, and I had an LED in there, but I found my air temperature was getting way too hot. And the last week, I've turned the halogen off just to give it a bit of, because my room's been quite hot, so I've just turned the halogen off, and they've been out a lot in the day, which is quite interesting to see.
Maybe they enjoyed the cool down.
And it's interesting because my room was at sort of 28 degrees Celsius, so I turned that halogen off just so I didn't run the risk of them overheating. And yeah, they've been out and about all day, and it's been weird seeing them out in the day. And they'll always come out no matter the time of the day if you throw food in there. But they've just been out sitting. So my brain is they're either looking for heat, or they're enjoying it more.
They're enjoying it more,
yeah. So
are they moving around?
Yeah, they're active. It's almost like it would be at night. Not all of them, just a couple of them.
Interesting.
But they're out and about because I have all 10 together. I have all 10 in a bit of just free for all. And I think I've got like 7 females to like 3 males, and I've got like 5 gravid females. So some of the males have been busy. But yeah, and with the eggs, how long roughly do you find? Because it feels like forever that they've been gravid. Because mine have been fat for like a month now.
Is this the first round?
Yeah, I've never had eggs, and they were young when I got them, so this will be their first eggs as well.
Yeah, the first round feels like it takes 700 years. They stay gravid for so long. Yeah, it's like about like you feel like they're big for like over a month. And then when they lay the first eggs, it's like almost on like a monthly schedule. Like they just start going. Like you feel like by the time like a week after the female lays the eggs, you're already huge again. How? So they're pretty fast, and they will do cycles of like 1 egg, 2 eggs. Some females will only lay 1 egg. Some females only lay 2 eggs. Like it's completely random how they are, and they still look just as big.
Are they seasonal then? Do they have like a time frame?
Yeah, they kind of just stop on their own as well. They do. I don't know exactly how many months it is, but like they'll do like maybe 6 months and then stop for 6 months. And I try to. So for the first 2 years of breeding them, I did. I would drop the temperature of the lamps. Not temperature. I would drop the temperature by dropping the wattage of the lamps and decreasing the amount of hours it'll be on and everything. And then this 3rd year, I was like, I'm not going to do it and see if it works. And so far, it doesn't look like it's necessary for them. But yeah, they definitely they cool off on their own for sure. Yeah.
Guess that helps without reduced burnout as well. Then
it must be that because the areas they come from, the temperature doesn't swing much to where they need to brumate or anything, right? Like it doesn't drop. Like it's not more than like a 20-degree difference or whatever. Which I know sounds like it's a lot, but it's like it's still warm temperatures. Like they go from like 45 degrees Celsius to like 30 degrees Celsius during the day. You know what I mean? Like it's still really hot. So I don't think they need to necessarily go down and slow down as much their diet. And I think the bugs in the food and all of that around are still probably breeding at those times as well.
That's interesting. So it's probably just them taking their own break
taking
rather
their own
than.
break. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although it is something to do with the seasons because they all stop around the same time and they all start again around the same time. And it's not just like seasonal with mine because like the week that mine started looking big, everyone would be messaging me like, "Oh, look how big my female is! Look how big my female is!" Like, yeah, okay, I know it's time now. You know, everyone's stenos are getting ready to go. So yeah,
Good time
it's
to be on the lookout for some.
exactly yeah. And in like 60 days, start asking around.
Yeah,
And
I've been
yeah,
told there's an import soon. Whether it's going to come or not, but I'm going to pick up a bunch of wild ones. And just create some new bloodlines, and just because I think they're great. They're
are yours
really
captive bred?
all of mine are captive bred, all 10.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All of
10.
mine, other than the ones that I held back from mine, are originally wild caught. Yeah.
No,
No, go on.
we were at an expo, and it was just it was coming to the end of it, so it was getting quite quiet. It was the first event at this new
Venue.
and the new venue. So it was really, really busy, and we just couldn't see anything the entire time. It was just packed. So we were kind of waiting to the end just to have one last look around. And Paul was like, "Oh, I really like these little geckos." And Paul was on a mad gecko spree where he was buying. What was it he bought? Bino geckos.
Binos, yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, and he was like, "I'm gonna get loads of geckos."
Those are good ones to get rid of, honestly.
Yeah, they're cool looking. Like, they're really cool looking.
But
like,
horrible pets.
the second you see them, they're like, yeah, that was fun.
And I remember we were just chilling at the bar, and the table that was across from the bar had this just glass tank or tub,
We walked
and it had a
past
heat lamp on it.
30 times as well. It's not like it was like it was like a light shining at the end. We'd walk past this table, but where it was so busy, you couldn't really see. Anyway, continue with the story.
And I peeked, I looked in, and I was like, "There's little geckos there." It's like, Paul, come here. I was like, "There's loads of those little geckos," and he was like, "What? No, stenos." I was like, "Yeah, there's." And the guy had.
It was 5 because I brought 5 from him, and I got 5 later on.
Yeah, no, but he had more than that because we picked a bunch.
Yeah, he had like 8, but to be completely honest, I'd already spent like several £100, and I hadn't. I went to the show with no money. Like, I'm not going to try and no joke to her. I was very poor, and I didn't want to spend any money, and I'd already spent a couple of £100 that I didn't have. And now at the end of the show, there was like 7 or 8 stenos, and I was like, "Oh, I really want them." Like, I really want, and I was talking back and forth with this guy, and he was like, "Oh, they're 50 quid each, like captive bred, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "How much you do 5 for?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't really want to do deals." And anyway, we were going back and forth. And I ended up getting quite a good price on 5. And I was literally looking at my bank account, and I was like, I have the money there, but if I don't get paid in 2 days when I'm supposed to get paid, I can't pay this bill. And I was like, and then it's like, do I message Fee and go, "Look, these geckos that I really want, like, is there any chance you could float me?" If the bloody Fee, obviously being my lovely, beautiful fiance, any chance you could float me if, like, I don't get paid? And I was just like, "Do you know what? I'm just gonna do it." I just brought them, transferred, PayPal the money, done, and I got the 5. And then I got paid, and it all worked out. And then I found another 5. Yeah, I found another 5 online, all captive bred from a different group, which was nice. So I have 5 from at least from 3 females and 2 males from wild caught, and I have another 5 from, again, a couple of different wild lines. So they're semi-un, but I want to get some wild ones and just, acclimatize them, make sure they're all good. Quarantine, that's what I'm thinking of. Make sure they're all good, make sure they're healthy, and then start to introduce maybe some of my own babies too. Yeah.
They're cool. I had a lot of fun playing with them last time I was around yours.
Yeah,
you just like throw food in and just like boom, 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 boom. They're cool. They're a cool little gecko.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I had to Google it quick. I did. Yeah, I did Google it, which is interesting because that's exactly what they're going for captive bred here. They're going for a lot cheaper wild caught, but that's exactly what they're going for as captive bred.
Yeah, they're about £20
or
wild caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, so £20 wild caught, and then £40 to £50 is the rough going rate for captive. But to be fair, in amongst my immediate reptile friend group, that all my babies are already sold. Everyone's like, "Oh no, I want some." As soon as you get babies, I want some. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll sort you out. I'll sort you out." So I'll have none hitting the market unless they are as prolific as you're saying. Then maybe I will. But
They
just-
are,
No,
but
because
you
we all
have
want
people.
10 plus.
Everybody, yeah.
yeah,
I have on my notes on my phone. I think there's like 16 names of people just that want more stenos, and it's
Nice.
there's no way that, like you said, there's no way that this year I'll be able to like sell
Supply
any or put
or-
it yet put any
yeah.
on them. Like I'm not doing an expo with stenos anytime soon. I'll tell you that. Like they'll just sell just straight out of the egg.
They are cool. They're out all night as well. Like, so you come down at night because I'm quite a night owl anyway, and I come down at night, and they're all out and the tails are up. And at the minute, because they're breeding, I just hear chirping. Even through the day.
Yeah.
So it's like
awesome.
chirp, 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 chirp. And he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "I think it's the geckos," and I'm like looking and trying to see, and you can't see any of them, but you can just hear chirp, 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 chirp. And
Yeah,
it's like,
they
"Oh,
kind of do sound like birds.
Yeah, they're cool. I really like them, and the tails just with the zebra patterning, and they are like lemurs because they flip their tails around when and when you spray them, and they run up to each other and drink water off each other's faces and stuff. They're so like they're really cool geckos, man. I love them. I think they're great. They're the best gecko I've ever owned. So they're cool.
See why I said they're the best pet?
They are cool. I don't know if, in my opinion, they're the best pet, but I reckon they could be the best gecko. Like,
yeah,
I've kept a lot of geckos. I've kept leaf tails and tokays and knobtail. I've kept a bunch of different geckos, but these are great.
I think for that older, I don't think they'd be great for young children, but I think for like that older child that wants to watch and interact, like by feeding rather than
even then,
like,
they just sit on your hand.
Yeah, they kind of just.
As long as you're delicate when you
but
pick
then,
them
like,
up, they
I've
just sit there.
got a leopard gecko who's an absolute arsehole. Like, he's a demon lizard. So even these basic starter pet animals that are great for beginners, some of them just really aren't, and that's just kind of what you have to get when you're buying an animal.
No,
where they're true desert as well, though, like true desert species, not sort of semi-tropical scrublands like a leopard gecko. There's less mistakes to make with their hair. So if you forget to spray them, as long as they've got fresh water, if you oh God, Jesus Christ, it's crept up 10 degrees in there. As long as the viv's fairly big, like they're good. Like I had it like 38 degrees, 39 degrees ambient air temperature in there the other day. That's why I turned the halogen off. I was like, Jesus, they all just come out at night. Like, yeah, it was great. It was a hot day today. Like, they're just really hardy geckos, which is great as well.
So I've been to like the desert where they've been out there, and it's like I said, I was there in December, and it was like 35 degrees and humid, and it gets to like 60 degrees there in summer. So like, yeah, they can tolerate a lot. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, they're cool. They are. Again, I sold the Petri. I had 9 Petri. I sold all 9 in the Viv and everything to a good friend who's had quite a few bits off me. So if I ever want babies one day, there's the option. And they're almost like a bit more sleek, almost like not a road runner-esque, but they're just long and skinny. They've got the longer limbs, and you can see them sort of. Whereas the stenos are like little tanks, and they've got little pig noses, and they're like, what? Like, they're just they are.
Just
cool.
come out of the hide and look at you, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've got little caves at the minute, and then you can see them like coming through the cave, and you open the door and do the start of the cave, and just sort of waggle it, and they'll just come over, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And what? Just quickly on them, diet-wise, what are you mainly feeding yours on? Are you mainly feeding like sort of mealworms and crickets, or what are you mainly feeding?
Crickets. They get like 90% of their diet is crickets. I'll give them fruit flies occasionally, because I see Dion constantly posting videos of him feeding his crickets of fruit flies. But at least with like my experience with them, once they reach a certain age, mine just stop taking fruit flies. I don't know if it's this meal is not worth the energy, it's too small, or if I've just gotten them used to taking crickets. But they definitely prefer the crickets over the fruit flies at a certain size. And then I'll leave bowls of like mealworms in there occasionally, or waxworms, or black soldier fly larvae. There's just a little bowl that I alternate worms in, but I only put that in like maybe once a week. And once they finish everything in it, I'll pull it out. So yeah, most of what they're getting is crickets.
Is it buffalo worms that are the smaller version?
Yeah, that's small. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
the buffalo worms, like
tiny.
a mini mealworm almost.
Yeah, they're tiny. Yeah. But
Yeah,
then, to be fair, they'll take an adult banded cricket, a steno will, not an adult black cricket, but they're monsters. What they try to take down, they are like mini monitors. They'll try and
they have no problem.
Thrash it down. Yeah. I watched one. I've got a tiny male, and he's tiny compared to the females, and I watched him take down like a sort of mid-size mealworm, and he generally had his head like cocked back, and he was like throwing it down, like literally like a monitor. And I was like, "Oh my god, is he dying? Is he all right?" And he just chowed it down, and he carried on about his business. And I was like, "Oh wow, okay." And I got adult, because I don't think you have locusts there, do you? You can't get locusts in Canada, if I'm correct.
No.
Yeah,
no.
So I have the adult ones. They're sort of 3-4 inches.
Will they eat them?
Well, I wasn't feeding them to the stenos because they're bigger than the stenos, but I put the bowl on the side in front of the steno enclosure,
and they start going crazy.
And all of them come to the front, and they're at the glass like this, and I'm like, they're bigger than you, but they eat baby. I'll throw in small locusts, and they eat small locusts, no issues. Yeah, they like small ones.
They can catch them.
Yeah. They don't have wings as babies; only can fly as adults.
Like little grasshoppers.
If anything, locusts are easier to catch than crickets, because crickets are quite active and move around, whereas a locust, they don't really
kind of just stand there.
Yeah, they'll walk slowly and they rely on camouflage more. The adults fly, and the second you spook them, they're gone. Whereas the babies are and they'll go slowly, but they'll get them. So they might get locusts, the odd mealworm. I've been doing mealworms a bit more lately, but crickets and locusts is mainly what I feed mine on. And I haven't tried beetles or anything, but I imagine they would take beetles because they're a desert species. So I imagine they would try to take a beetle.
I assume that's what they're eating outside, like in the wild. It's probably beetles and spiders more than there are like wild native crickets there, but I'm assuming they're probably too big for them as well. Like they're probably eating, like you said, beetles. But I can't find like we've talked about this before, but we're super limited on feeders that we can actually offer. So like you said, black crickets, I don't think that's something we can get here. We can't get locusts, and it's pretty much crickets or one species of roach, or you're doing worms. That species of roaches breeds super slow.
We've got loads of roaches. Like you do get quite a lot of small mini roaches. But the issue is that they're a nightmare because they get out and stuff. So we've got quite a long list. But then it's interesting because you have got what's the green worm? The green
hornworms.
Hornworms. We're not allowed hornworms. They're illegal here.
Yeah.
Because so there's like probably it's the only one I can think of that we're not allowed is the hornworms.
No, we have hornworms. They're pretty accessible, but they come in like weird sizes, right? Like you'll go to one store to pick them up and they're like, these are way too big to feed my gecko, or you go to another store and you're like, these are too tiny. So they're not always the most accessible. But sorry, question. What kind of baby geckos are the red runners being fed to?
So he had he did, I don't think it's Nephris anymore, it's Underwoodisaurus, the barking gecko.
Okay, yes, barking geckos. Yeah.
He does the barking gecko. He also has, Jonas has had a load, but what have you got nowadays, Jonas? He's got Underwoodisaurus. He's got the I know I've got it in, is it the ocelot gecko or like
that's the Pictus gecko, right?
Not Pictus. No, not Pictus as in like they almost look like skinks. They've got like the big scales.
Nephris, okay.
Yeah, he has What are the fish scale gecko bloody geckos, Jonas? Oh god, my brain. Frog-eye geckos, maybe. They're common name. I can't think of the Latin. But yeah, those ones. I was looking at a pair for like 70 quid. They're not fish scale because fish scale like common climb. Yeah. Anyway, he'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah. But those
but yeah.
species all like the babies are all like almost the size of larger stenos, right? Like the baby under Widosaurus is almost the size of an adult gecko. No?
Yeah, it will be similar. And those it's really pissed me off. I'm gonna Google what these are now. These bloody fish.
Just naming things in the chat. If you're talking about, I guess we could Google it. I do know what you're talking about when you say the frog-eyed gecko. I've never heard it's referred to as fish scale gecko, but
no.
Fish scale gecko, Gecko lepus.
Yeah, it's not fishtail gecko. It's frog-eyed gecko.
It is frog-eyed gecko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peritatus cinctus. I don't know. Those ones.
Yeah.
I might
Jonas
be blurry.
has a lot.
Yeah,
they
Jonas
come from the same range as stenos.
Yeah.
Same like areas, same deserts.
I was looking at getting a pair. There's a pair here for £70, which is like 110, 115 Canadian. And I was like, yeah, why not? They're not fish scale. I think I saw them once upon a time as fish scale because they have fish scales, but fish scales are the ones that are more arboreal, like a house gecko fish scale.
They climb. Yeah.
I have both of them in my head, but I don't know the Latin, so it's like saying common names, and everyone's like, "What are you on about?" I have both geckos.
I can't picture a fish scale.
That's the problem with common names. Okay, so when the stenodactylus, when a bunch of stenodactylus came into Canada a couple of months ago, like there's just a bunch of wild caught ones that came in, and the stores were all selling them as dwarf. I can't remember. One of them was being sold as Egyptian dwarf sand gecko. One of them was being sold as dwarf sand gecko. And one of them was being sold as elegant something. Like they were just had all these different common names thrown on them. And people were just messaging me, asking me like questions. And I was getting so confused because nobody was using the Latin names. But exactly. Yeah. We need to be using Latin names more for sure. Also, give me 1 second. I'm just going to close this window.
Yeah, no worries. There's a girl here that she was after stenodactylus, and a shop was selling Stenodactylus petri, and she was like, "Oh no, I don't want petri, I want stenodactylus." And she sent me a picture, and I was like, "They are stenodactylus. They're not petri." And she's like, "No, the shops are them as petri." I'm like, "But they're not petri." Yeah, that's it's not really loading. That's a fish scale gecko.
I can't think of this common name.
Yeah, that's a fish scale gecko. Am I blurry or am I okay?
Blurry on my screen, but you have been
I'm clean as you like on my screen. My bloody internet.
Nope, you're blurry.
You've been blurry the whole stream on my screen anyway.
It's probably for the best. Probably for the best. I need to share. Hang on. Let me share screen. It'd just be easier. Fish scaled gecko. Yeah. So this girl was trying to get the petri. Get stenodactylus, and she ended up getting petri. And I was like, no, this is stenodactylus. And she said, no, the shop's selling them as petri. They're petri. I'm like, they're not petri. And it's just like, it is a minefield when you come into common names. But when it comes to common names, do you try and avoid? Yeah, no worries. Do you try and avoid common names, or do you try to stick purely just to Latin?
I try to. Well, I don't know. So like all the species I work with now, you kind of need to use them. So like, there are common names for all the different mountain horn dragons, but everyone just knows them as mountain horn dragons. So I can't just say, you know what I mean? Like I have to say Capro or Natalia or whatever. And the stenos are the same thing. There's like 60 common names for the one species, and then they use them for all the different species too. So you never really know what they're talking about. But with things like leopard geckos or crested geckos or ball pythons or whatever, like I'll use the common names, right? Like, or I breed Pictus geckos as well. I do say Pictus geckos. So yeah, I guess it's a mix of both, but I try to avoid it when I can. In the fish world, it's only the very basic fish that have common names, and then everything else is they just use the Latins. There's not really common names for them, and I think the reptile hobby needs to kind of catch up.
Yeah. It's. I remember when I first started keeping, like years and years ago. everything was just common name. Everything was common name. And then
Yeah.
it wasn't until I started getting into varanids seriously that I started to learn, like, take Latin seriously.
Yeah.
And then I learned all the Latin for most of the varanids, especially the ones you find in captivity. And then I just kind of pick stuff up as I'm going along. So species that I keep, like, I will know what it is.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, like people like Jonas, for example, he's he knows everything about like all that, and he'll throw out these names, and I'm like, Jonas, what?
Slow down.
He's like, it's a this. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what that species is, but the Latin, I have no idea because I've never kept it. I've never looked into it, you know.
No,
So
100%.
it is a hard one. And I had someone comment on my Instagram. I don't know if you can hear me, Michael, but this is the fish scale gecko. I had someone comment on my Instagram. What was it? My toad-headed agamas. And someone was like, "Oh, I'm waiting for them to do the mouth thing," and I'm like, "No, that's my cephalus or my whatever it is, my mycosis, whatever." I was like, "These ones are Przowski, they're different species," and he was like, "Oh, well, that's why you need to use the Latin." I'm like, "Yeah, but then also it takes away from people just trying to enjoy what a toad-headed agama is." Like, so I see both sides because if I'm like bloody is enjoying this cricket, and then everyone's like, well, that's kind of far removed. So I can see both sides. It's a fine.
No, you're right.
The
The average keeper isn't gonna enjoy it as much as like somebody that's like engrossed in the hobby and kind of like practicing the Latin, for lack of better words.
I almost find it easier. So I use Latin with monitors, and then everything else is common. But the thing with monitors is because they're all Varanus something, we just call them by their second. So we call them Persinus, Macraei, Beckeri,
You're learning
Gillenai.
one word.
Yeah, because it's only one word. So we just almost use that one word as the name of that lizard. So like, yeah, when we're talking within the group, we're just like, oh, my Persinus this, or my Timorensis this, or whatever. Whereas I wouldn't go, I'm not even gonna attempt to butcher the pink tongue skink line. I'll just go my pink tongues or my pink tongues.
Right.
Rather than because I can't even. I can see it, but I couldn't be able to like. So it's almost off the.
It doesn't just
off
roll off the tongue.
Yeah. But it's because it's that one word because you don't need the start of it. And I think that was if you're in those kind of niches, you are just almost running off of. It would be the same with like your capras or your leptogasters.
Yeah,
where you would almost just go,
the other keepers, it's just like the capras or the lipid. Yeah, I know for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where like I bounce between, but it's almost because it depends on who you're talking to.
Absolutely, that makes sense. No, you're right. It depends on who you're talking to. It depends on the species, I guess, as well.
Yeah. It is a hard one because, like, for example, Varanus is a really easy one to say. It's not, you can't really get it wrong. It's Varanus or Varanus, you know, it's pretty, but then you get other ones like Lepidogasta. Sometimes it's like, and I struggle to speak English, let alone read a word in Latin that I've never pronounced before. So I always just say to people, if you say it with your chest and pretend that you know how it's pronounced, then you'll be fine.
Just like, exactly. Yeah.
Fake it until you make it, baby.
Who's correcting us anyway?
Right? Well, someone in the chat probably is.
Yeah.
Like ancient family did the manuscript.
But
so
that's the negative internet again.
Yeah, I'll say it how I want to say it. Like stenodactylus. I forget how to spell it, but the random letter in there was actually a spelling mistake when they described it or something like that. And it just stuck.
Stenodactylus.
Yeah, stenodactylus. Yeah.
That's the stenodactylus.
So, and we still pronounce it the same, but there's a random spelling mistake in there. One of us. So, but on that, then, let's go into the mountain horn dragons.
Hear me.
How long have you been? Oh, Jesus Christ. It's all gone to shit now, everybody. Swipe or no swiping. How long have you been?
Not got the gift going.
Oh, I need to get it out. Hang on. How long have you been keeping the mountain horn dragons?
Same thing. I think when did COVID end?
Somewhere in the last 3 years, probably 22, 23, I would say.
So like yeah, like not before COVID ended, when people were like over it and expos
Yeah.
started happening again.
Yeah.
Because it was like the first expo after all that started. So maybe like maybe 2020 or 2021.
Around then.
I picked up 3 babies that were a wild caught shipment had come in, and then a gravid female came in. She laid the eggs, she died, and then the babies hatched. So I picked up 3 of them, and yeah, man, I fell in love with them. Just raising them, I fell absolutely in love with them. And then so fast forward, I started buying a bunch of like wild caught adults, and it just wasn't the same. Like there really is something about raising like captive babies and raising them yourself, and they really get to know you. But yeah, so it's about 3 years, and that was just the capras, and now I'm keeping capras, Natalias, Lepidogasters, and armatas, and I have a bunch of armatas coming in very, very soon.
Very exciting. The
Nice.
Natalias are one of my favorite.
They are gorgeous.
I was gonna get some, but then I found out that if they get, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I found out if you keep them too hot, they'll just die.
Yeah, all mountain or dragons. They
Yeah.
they come from I don't know what the right word there is, like cloud forests.
Yeah.
Like so higher up elevation. So they need it cool. So the Natalia actually can handle it a little bit warmer than the rest as well. But I only keep the hot spot on like the capras or the Lepidogasters at like 85, 87. I won't go over that, which I always have to keep flipping back and forth. Hold on.
No, that's fine. So 85 will be like, so 30 is 90. So
30, yeah,
like
so like like 20.
26, maybe?
No, like 28, 29.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Google says 29, but I don't believe that.
No, it probably is. Yeah, it probably is.
They're an interesting group of animals.
Yeah, so you kept some. Which species did you keep?
I kept Lepidogasters. So I'm quite big into agamids. I've had like Australian water dragons. I've got my frillies at the moment. And mountain horse dragons were always that one, like almost like chameleons that you looked at and you were like, no, because I'll kill them because my room gets too hot. I got offered 2 captive bred young Lepidogasters as part of a trade. And it was almost like, these, because it was for baby pink tongues. I was like, well, they've not cost me anything. I'll see what like. And I kept them for just over a year. That trade was quite a sour taste. It wasn't a good experience. And that kind of almost translated into these animals. So although I enjoyed the animals, they always just like were that kind of reminder. So I had them for just over a year before I moved them on. Turned out I had 2 males.
Okay, nice.
And because the Lepidogasters were quite small.
They're the dwarfs of the mountain horn dragons.
Yeah, so they were cool. I kept them in a paludarium. Like I've had very limited conversation with you over social media, and one of it was about the paludarium I set up. It was just over comments on a post or something.
Yeah.
And I had them in, like, I set up a paludarium. It was really cool, but I wasn't getting anywhere with them. I was enjoying them, but they were just a bit iffy for me. Yeah, so I moved. I got offered a trade for them. A guy was quite interested, so I moved them on last summer. And although I missed them, I don't regret trading them. So it's kind of like I always look at capras and think, oh, they're really cool. Or I think I was always so worried about killing them, and I think that took the enjoyment out of them as well. Like I've got a bunch of geckos and all sorts of like New Caledonia stuff in my room. So it doesn't get crazy hot, but yeah, it was a fun experience. I would definitely try. I'd probably want the Natalias. I think they're really cool.
Yeah.
But I also like bigger animals. Like I love my frillies. My frillies are probably one of my favorite my favorite lizards. So they're just they're cool. But
yeah, do you keep the frillies with running water as well?
No. It's I had I've got an air line going around my room because I used to keep a lot of fish tanks. So I
Okay.
do have access to like bubblers and air stones and stuff. I have
Yeah.
done that in the past. But I also spray them quite a lot. But it is something I'd like to incorporate more as kind of like water features and stuff.
Yeah, no, I've never kept frillies. I don't know if they need it or not. I'm just curious because they do seem very similar to mountain horn dragons in almost
They
every aspect except for the heat.
they don't need it, but I've seen people, they're not like a water dragon where they need that like water basin. But I have seen people keep them in with like smaller ponds and stuff, and they do use it, which is quite interesting. Whereas when I got the leptogasters, it was very much a case of, right, I need running water. Right, how am I going to do this? I'm going to set up a paludarium. I ended up buying one of the Exoterra Frog and Co tanks because I could use the drain for like water changes and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a cool. It was fun, and they were really nice. But I think it was one of those things that I got frustrated with them quite quickly. And it turned out when after I traded them, the guy was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is 2 males." I was like, "Well, I got them traded as a young pair." But
Yeah,
it was
that's funny. I
one.
got my first pair of them were sold to me as a young pair, and they ended up being 2 males as well.
Yeah.
They're interesting. When you say you had trouble with them, was it trouble getting them to eat, or just in general like breeding?
No,
I
it
guess,
was it was more just that I had a bad association with them, and then I was always just that stressed out about them. They ate all right. I was feeding them locusts,
Okay, yeah.
but
I
they
bet they'd love
and it
that,
was and they were quite small, but like they were the only thing in my room that was eating small locusts because everything else I've got is big. So I was having to buy in small locusts just for them, and there was just a few things with them that
not worth it. Yeah,
that
makes sense.
I had them cool though. I had them like a Vietnamese style like kind of setup, and I had Vietnamese white cloud mountain minnows in the water bit, and it was cool. I enjoyed it, and I keep a lot of fish tanks, so like I enjoy that kind of water aspect.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite things about them as well. I started out in the aquarium hobby as well, and just the ability to still be able to keep certain fish. Like I have a big paludarium set up for the capras, and I have a little eel in it that I'm growing out, and a bunch of endlers, and now I'm looking at getting like a pufferfish for it or something. So like that's one of the best parts about the mountain dragons is you're still getting that fish keeping aspect in it as well.
Well,
and actually, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, what I was gonna say is like I was looking in because I was debating because obviously they're such a small lizard, and the only thing I could get them to eat was these little locusts. I was like, I think you could do some sort of mixed species with them. Like the way like.
You mean like cohab a different species of reptile?
Yeah, I was looking into like what kind of like little geckos, and but I don't have experience with it, but I was going down that research black hole almost, if you will, of looking at what else is around that region. Because I think they are one of those a species that you could do something with. Especially like, mine never touched the fish. Like they weren't interested in the fish.
Yeah. Did you find anything interesting about that? Is there a species you'd recommend?
I was very close to adding morning geckos.
Okay, yeah. Do they come from the same ish sort of?
Similar.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I saw like I know somebody here that keeps them with like toads and frogs and that kind of stuff as well.
I went basically. I was just looking at what's common in the pet hobby that comes from the same area, because I was thinking, well, could you keep them with like? See, I was looking at tree frogs, or like the Vietnamese mossy tree frogs, but then I was like, they're gonna be too in each other's faces. So then I was looking at like kind of bottom dwellers, but because I had so much of the footprint as the paludarium, I was like, well, that's not going to work. So no, I'm sure it was morning geckos, or I'm sure it was morning geckos that there is an overlap.
Yeah.
But then I was also, because it's not I didn't have the original white cloud mountain minnows. There's a Vietnamese subspecies that stay smaller. And they come from a very similar place.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've like on the whole topic of like Vietnamese and like just having it as a biotope. I would very much like to one day set up one with like a paludarium for them with just just plants from that area, fish from that area, just that kind of thing. But I wonder what else I could keep with them. It would be interesting.
I did keep for a while a female betta. Just a young one, a young female betta, and that was quite cool because you had your pet lizards, and obviously a betta is quite a personable fish.
Yeah.
So she was like coming up to kind of eat from the surface and stuff, and that worked quite well. That was cool.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm trying to do the a species of puffer, like a smaller species of puffer, because they're super personable, and the ones I'm looking at as well come from the same area as the dragons. So it's the same. Yeah, I agree.
Is that a freshwater puffer?
Yeah, red eye puffer. They
come
cool.
From
rivers in Vietnam and Thailand and all that area, which is exactly where the dragons come from. So I don't know how high up you'd find the puffers. Probably not as high up as you find the dragons, but I think it would be interesting to try. I just need to find those puffers because they're very hard to find in the city.
No, but I'd highly recommend the Vietnamese white cloud mountain minnows. They were really, and obviously they like it. I had a filter. I don't know if you get them over there, but it's like a filter, and then it's got a little nozzle for like a waterfall. So it kind of sticks out like that, and the water comes up. So I had that in the corner, running like a kind of water stream going down. And
and they probably enjoyed the current of that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen the Vietnamese ones, but I'll definitely look it up after this. That sounds interesting.
They're just because white clouds do get a little bit bigger, but the Vietnamese are a good alternative.
Yeah. Well, they're probably a little bit faster anyway, so they won't get caught.
I'd never seen them hunt them at all, but that's what made me think about, well, would a gecko work? Because unless I put the locust right in front of the dragon's face, they wasn't interested.
So I'll tell you, I don't know about the Lepidogaster because I agree that they're smaller and like maybe a little bit lazier, but I think the capras would take down an adult mourning gecko if it's
probably my Leptogasters were
like that,
tiny,
a
couple of inches, if that. They were
because I don't think I would like the Lepidogasters. At least mine barely even chase the crickets when I throw them in. So you're probably right. I don't think they'd be able to even catch them.
I was very close. I was very close to adding some before I moved them on. That was like I was going to do like a 3x3 kind of big paludarium style, and I was going to have a bunch of different things, but.
Yeah, that would be sick. I've been thinking of crabs recently, but I feel like the dragons would also just eat those.
I think they're.
Do you think it would be that bad if they did?
I don't think it would be that bad if they did. I would be very happy about it. The problem is crabs aren't cheap, so it wouldn't be something I could repeatedly do. But if I could find
you think like vampire crabs?
I would use them as feeders because I feel like that's awesome. I assume they're eating a variety of different interesting things out there, and I don't think it's what we're feeding them.
No.
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger problems with like what's happening with them, and they're very similar to chameleons where they just start forming infertile eggs in large numbers, larger than they can handle, and they become egg bound and they die. And I think largely that's to do with probably we're keeping them at not correct temperatures and probably feeding them the wrong things, like things that have too much fat in them, or maybe they're not getting food as often as we think they are out there. I don't know, but if I feel like crabs would be a good alternative to some of the things that we are feeding if they were the right size and cheap enough.
Good in high in carotenoids and calcium.
Yeah.
See, I thought about
and low
shrimp,
in fat.
Like freshwater shrimp, because obviously they come from those kind of streams and stuff.
Yeah. Did you give it a try?
I put a manos in. They didn't touch them.
Okay.
And I didn't have. I was going to try like cherry shrimp or like a Neocaridina species, but
they won't touch them. I have Neocaridina in every single paludarium. They have never.
They don't bother.
No. The only time I've ever seen one. Sorry, the only time I've ever seen one show any interest in anything in the water. And I was like ready, like pulling out the camera, like it spotted the fish, it's watching, it's looking, like he's about to, and he jumped into the water, and he's about to get it, and yeah, he started chasing a piece of floating poop. So that is as close to as interested in fish as I've ever seen them. And I think it's because it was floating on the top. So maybe if there was like a floating or a fish that swims very slowly on the top and grabs, like that they can grab easily, maybe
like a
but otherwise
hatchet.
they're- Yeah,
Although they're
Or
South
some-
American, so complete. But yeah,
Oh, sorry, I'm
I
talking
was-
about Akansora capra, mountain horn dragons. Just
yeah, because we had Alex from Alex's Agamids on a couple of weeks ago,
yeah,
and he was talking about the differences of dragons or Agamid species, and how, because we were speaking about the species that Paul really picked up, about how they're ambush. They're ambush predators, so, or like they're kind of set
Yeah,
in wait.
mine don't hunt. They don't hunt at all.
Oh.
Oh, there he's gone.
quick,
Bye. Mine,
quick drop off.
yeah, mine don't hunt at all. The
You have to
Dilophus.
tongue feed them.
Well, if it doesn't walk in front of their face, they're not interested.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the male wouldn't eat so obviously they're imports, they're wild. The male wouldn't eat anything but roaches when I got them, and I didn't want to feed roaches because roaches are really, really high in phosphorus and high in protein. So it's quite hard because obviously you have to really calcium a roach so you can get the correct phosphorus calcium ratio. But the problem is with a wild animal, they don't tend to take powdered food readily.
Yeah.
So I had a real nightmare trying to get this male to eat. He's also done so. He's bashed up his bottom jaw. I don't know what he's done, but he's got a scab on his bottom lip now. It's like, for a lizard that doesn't move, how have you done
How
this?
did you do that? Yeah. Probably just bumped it against a piece of wood or something.
Yeah, but they're also, I'm not versed in Lepidogasta, but the species I have here, the Dilophus, they're very clumsy. Like, they're just very, if something spooks them, they just go and jump and fall and bumble and crash. They're not agile at all.
That was exactly mountain horn dragons.
Yeah, they're just very clumbus. But as soon as something comes above them, and it's the way that obviously they've evolved to look up,
reach out backwards and
backwards, and then they'll launch forward with their tongue out, and they've got this luminous yellow tongue, which is really cool. And now both of them take adult locusts, which is great. But yeah, they're both feeding quite well, and the hydration is a bit of a nightmare because obviously they don't drink standing water.
Yeah. So how are you dealing with that? Actually, I'll just jump in. Chelsea, I haven't tried frogs. I assume they would if they're given access to them. Yeah.
I think most reptiles would eat most things given the correct situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried Reptibites, and which is like the Reptilinks in the States, or I don't know if you guys have any equivalent in the UK, but Reptibites is like a little sausage kind of thing. And there's an invert and fish formula, and they don't ever eat anything that doesn't move. And there must have been some, like, a smell of something that they recognize or something, because they smelled it, they like smack. Yeah. And I think it was the fish or the shrimp or whatever is in there that gives them that thing. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. How are you setting up? How are you doing running water for the dragons?
So just on the food quickly, Arcadia makes something called Insectigold, which is basically a powdered diet that you make into you can make it into a sausage. And it's got it's got a lot of beetle casing on it and a lot of insect protein in it. And it was designed for bearded dragons because the beetle casings reflect under UV light. I'm yet to try it with the Dilophus, but it's an agamid diet. It's an all lizard diet, but it is designed for agamid. So I'm interested to try that with them.
Yeah, I'll have to pick some of it up. What's it called? Sorry.
It's called Insectigold, but just message me. I'll send you a picture of it. But it's designed. I've used it for a couple of my lizards, like my Bosquanus and my Savannah takes it. Loves it. Whereas my Savannah's not particularly keen on Omnigold, which is their skink food. Whereas my bearded dragon loves that.
Yeah.
The Insectigold, because it is insect protein. When it comes to hydration for the forest dragons, I have a shout out HabiStat, Rainmaker Pro on them. To be fair,
I saw that.
This is not even an ad now. This is genuinely speaking. My room is quite a big room, and my 6x4x6 mangrove enclosure, my 4 foot long, 2 foot deep, 6 foot tall forest dragon enclosure, my 4x4x6 tree monitor enclosure, and my 4x2x5 tree monitor enclosure are all done off one misting system. All across like that, it does the whole lot. Doesn't lose.
That's
it's
impressive.
like it's sick.
Yeah. It's still good pressure.
Yeah. It doesn't no difference because I had it just on the mangrove, and then I plumbed it all in to sort of see if it would work. I brought a little TP splitter and split it left and right, and the only difference is instead of like almost being instant when you go, it takes a few seconds to start up, but outside of that, there's no. But anyway, so I have that, and I also hand mist them. When I first got the male, he drank for like 10 minutes solidly off the mister, and I was like, "Oh, I was not ready for this," and he just kept drinking and drinking and drinking.
Dehydrated from travel, yeah.
I then realized, Jesus Christ, the bottom of my enclosures are going to become sodden because these animals just need to be rained on. And then I also have a HabiStat, basically effectively a fogger. And that runs because there was a guy, I forget his name, but a guy who owns a pet shop over here, Millennium Reptiles. I'll see if I can find the video. He found Dilophosaurus in the wild on a tree at night, and it was 99% humidity and 27 degrees at night, and I was like, whoa. So yeah, mine get pumped with a humidifier, and I have a deep heat on them because again, are the mountain horn dragons thermoconformers, so they move around like Boyd's forest dragons, or are they baskers? Are they thermoregulators?
They are thermoregulators.
They are thermoregulators. Okay.
Yeah. So they will go up to the basking spot every now and then, and they'll move away from it. Not as often as I would expect them to, but yeah, they or to my knowledge at least, that's how it works.
Yeah. So what I can understand is Boyd's forest dragons is where I'm basing a lot of my information because there's not a lot of information on. I can't find the video. There's not a lot of information on the Dilophosaurus. And they're very similar to Boyd's. They occupy similar niches.
Do they also kind of just do their not need to bask?
So they're thermoconformers.
But
I keep them with a halogen, and they bask. Whereas everyone I've spoken to was like, no, just want to deep heat at night. And I'm like, nah. So I put a halogen on them.
Interesting.
Yeah, they bask and they go up and they thermoregulate. But I've been theorizing with a couple of people, and if you think in the wild, the sun will come up, and as it comes up, it will come through the canopy, and they'll get sun on their flanks, and they'll move up and down and chase the sun. And then obviously midday for like 4 hours, you'll get no sun because obviously it is completely covered by the canopy. And then as the sun starts to come down again, it will come back through the canopy because it's going down. So they will get true UVB and UVA.
Yeah.
So I've set them up with a UVI of like 3.5 right at the top. They're in a 6 foot tall enclosure, but the electrics are on the outside, so it's only like a 5 foot tall. But they're in a 5 foot tall and they're just shy of 4 foot wide, 2 foot deep. So they've got a lot of space. And we lost the male. We were like, where is he? Like, where's he gone? And he's right at the bottom on a stick at the back at the minute, and a sort of temperature gun where he is, and it's like 21 degrees. And
he went to the cooler area.
He's just right down the bottom at 21. And I've never seen him down the bottom. The female moves around a lot. The male tends to not move. But now I've got him hydrated and on better food. He's a lot more active. And he's also become a twat. Every time you go in there, he flares his dewlap out and he puffs himself up now. And I'm like, oh, well, whereas the female just sits on your hand. And like she was scratching at the door yesterday. I was like, I wonder. And I opened the door. She jumped, ran on my arm and sat on my shoulder. I was like, this is very cool.
Yeah.
But they're very unique in the sense. I don't know if the the mountain horn dragons, are the same. But the forest dragons are very abrasive underneath, where obviously they just cling to wood. Like their whole underside is spikes, or literally everywhere, from the tip of their toe, the tip of their tail, under their chin, is all almost like an Aki's tail. It's just a whole body. It's
Wow.
just spiked. It's pretty, and it's sharp as well. It's not like bluff like a bearded dragon. It is sharp. So much so that just sitting on your hand, they actually cut you, make you like scratch you. Well, not even their claws, just underneath their abrasiveness. It's mental. They're
rough almost. Yeah, that's fascinating.
They generally feel like an Aki's tail, like all over. Such a unique individual. Yeah. But yeah, so they're pretty cool. There's not a lot of information on them, but I was going to just sort of speak on because you can only take from what other people have done. The breeding of the mountain horn dragons could be similar to these. So when you do go into breeding and stuff, like is there certain things you do to sort of flesh out breeding, or is it again just sort of like the stenos? They naturally it becomes spring, they start to breed.
I am on my second year of failure, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I don't actually know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I speak to some people. There's one other person working with capras up in like 4 or 5 hours from me, and they've had one successful clutch, I think, or 2 successful clutches, and they say just kind of let them do their thing. They'll lay 3 clutches a year or whatever. I paired mine. I have big looking females. It's been way too long and they haven't laid them yet, so I don't know what's going on, or if they're not actually gravid and just super fat. Maybe I'm overfeeding. But basically, from what I heard is they just kind of do their own thing. But then online, if you read from like some papers and whatever, it does seem that they have very heavy seasonal differences. So like they have the monsoon season where it's raining almost 24/7 all the time, and then they have almost like drier seasons and all of that. So I don't actually know if I'm doing things right, but I am trying to play with things. So like right before in like late summer, I'll just start. So like I guess with maybe fall even, I'll start turning the Mist King on for like 10 minutes at a time every day. So like properly giving them a proper rein. And you can see their behavior changes once the rein is on for a good amount of time. All of them will jump in the water. They start swimming around. They start itching themselves like dogs. They start like worming around in the soil. So like they definitely react to like heavy rainfalls. And then from speaking to like people that have successfully bred Natalias or Lepidogaster, it seems that so like my one friend, his Natalia female, I guess was refusing the male, like just kind of fighting the male constantly until the heavy rains started, or heavy rains when they started spraying him more often.
Yeah.
And a couple of months, like a month or 2 after that, she laid her clutch. So, and then same thing with, or sorry, not the same thing with the Lepidogaster, whereas the Lepidogaster, it's just constantly, or the person that I successfully know, I can't speak anymore, man. The person that I know that successfully bred the Lepidogaster, there we go. He said that they kind of just had, like, I think the same water cycles year round and same temperature stable all the time. And they just at one point found the female stopped eating, started laying eggs. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a difference between all the different Acanthosaurus species, or what the right way to do it is. But I definitely think that it's a rain trigger more than a temperature trigger, because they seem to be like not big shifts in temperatures in that area.
Yeah. Oh, it's not lying, but this is the guy in the wild that found the wild forest dragon, if it's playing on the screen.
Yeah, it's crazy. What region is this?
Oh, I don't know what island he's in. He's in Papua New Guinea, but I couldn't tell you the exact island.
Yeah.
He was in Batanta and he went across to Sarong.
Okay.
But yeah, they found a couple.
That's just what my leptogasters would do. They would just sit on vertical cork branches.
Yeah.
Or I got some. So I got some just like vertical cork that had just almost like little twigs just sticking out of it. And like genuinely the thickness of a twig. And they would just sit on the edge of that over the water. They were cool. But they liked that vertical. I presume your
All of them are like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They like to be sitting almost like on the side of a tree.
Yeah, like
And
similar to.
similar to what you're saying here, exactly. Yeah, and I've never been able to find. I haven't been able to find the videos that I once saw. There was a few videos of somebody going out there, and then he's trying to catch them, and they jump away from him or whatever. I have never been able to find those videos again, but they're sitting exactly like that in those videos too.
You can see the spikes on like the tail. The video I'll play again in a minute, but or not.
Yeah, it goes all the way down.
Yeah, like literally the whole. If I click watch again, it's going to upset it. The whole animal is the problem is it will start there, it moved around the back. It's amazing to see. The whole animal is abrasive. Even these spikes on the side. Like
the Matador dragons aren't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they spikes on the bottom, spikes underneath, spikes on the hands, spikes on the arms. Like they are. Yeah, there's something
spiky.
They almost look like smaller sailfin dragons.
They're crazy. What like seeing them in person, like actually owning a pair. There was a company that imported them in a shop that imported them in January. It was either January or February. I was like, oh my god, I need to get some. And before you know it, they were literally within a day, they were all gone. I was like, oh
yeah.
Man. And then end of March, mid-March, Michael and another friend Dan were down in mine staying for a reptile expo, reptile convention, and I had to go to a funeral, so I didn't get to play reptiles. And they came back and they were like, "Oh, the local reptile shop, they've got a pair of those forest dragons." I said, "Really? Have they?" She said, "Yeah." So I was like, "Oh, yeah." And so I went down there the weekend after, and I said to the owner, "I was like, look, I don't have the money, but do not sell them. I will find the money.
I will make this happen."
That's what I said to him, and he went, "Mate, honestly, it's fine. I trust you. I know you. If you want them, then they're yours." I was like, "Look,
okay, nice.
I'll find the money." And
nice.
I turned up the next day, and
with the money,
I found the money.
I found the money. I went treasure hunting, and I succeeded.
Yeah. So less than 24 hours later, he went, "You're back quick." I said, "Oh, I didn't want to lose them, so I bought the pair." And he was very honest. He said, "Look, obviously they're imports. Like they've been here for 6-7 weeks. The male's only feeding on roaches. Like it's nice when a shop is open."
Yeah,
they're great. They're bullet. Yeah, they're bomb proof. So I knew what I was getting into before I even brought them. And yeah, the male drank and drank and drank and drank, and I was like, I need to fill up the sprayer. He just drank. So yeah, it was at that moment I knew I was in trouble. So thankfully they're in a fiberglass lined vivarium, so it shouldn't rot because they're too big to go.
You almost need like a water dish at the bottom that runs like a dripper above.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Ideally, I would say if you weren't keeping females and you weren't worried about where they were going to deposit the eggs, I would almost say do like what the chameleon keepers do, where there's like no substrate and it's just a bunch of branches and, like you said, like a drain at the bottom, and keep it almost always raining, because they would love it. They do need dry out periods, and they are dry shedders. So like once they're trying to shed, they avoid being sprayed, and they kind of hide in like the drier areas of the vivarium to kind of have it dry and crust off or whatever. But other than that, exactly. And other than that, they love the water. Like I have males that sleep in, like they'll spend over 24 hours in the water section.
That's really interesting they do that, because these guys wouldn't do that. Obviously we're talking completely different species, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that. Do you find the Natalias do that as well? Because the Natalias are something that I'm interested in.
The Natalia is the newest species I've started keeping, and both mine are wild caught and very mean, and I think still very. It's only been a couple of months, and I don't think they've really acclimated to like being around me. So the female, yes, she doesn't, not like the Capra, she doesn't sleep in the water, but like I'll walk into the room and kind of catch her like in it, and then she'll jump out as soon as I'm in there. The male sits in the waterfall, but never in the water. If that makes sense. Yeah. Sits where it's like dripping somewhere. He likes the running, but he never sits in the actual water. Yeah.
They are.
And the Lepidogasters actually are the least that I ever see in the water. Yeah.
Did you ever see yours in the water? Because yours was a full paladarian, wasn't it, Michael?
Oh, it was like half and half. I would see them jump in the water, but as soon as they got in the water, they'd like kind of freak out and they'd climb out.
Yeah, back out. Yeah, that's
Like they wouldn't soak per se. So yeah, like I would be more if I started them, they would obviously leap down and go into the water, or if I was feeding them or something. But yeah, there was more, and that's why I was thinking like fish and stuff like that. There were no issues with them because they were never actively in the water the same way you would see like a Shiniosaurus or something. Like when you see these animals are just sat in the water column, they were never like that.
Yeah.
So on the mountain horn dragons, because the capra are, at least here, they're not common, but if you want one, you can find one. Whether they're captive bred or imports, I couldn't tell you. I don't know enough about it. But let's talk captive bred. Do you think they are, use the term loosely, good pets, or are they more specialist? Captive bred individuals, obviously.
Well, I think they're good pets regardless, but I don't. Yeah. I do think they're a little specialist. I don't think they're, which is why I didn't say them earlier when you asked me like best pet. I don't think they're an average person is going to pick them up as their first reptile for sure. You know what I mean? Just figuring out like how to kind of have it be humid enough, but still have enough airflow for them to not have like tail rot or whatever. For example, like fans. I think those are. Sorry.
I used fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, but that's not something like an average keeper, or not an average, a beginner keeper would think of, right? So I feel like they're definitely a good pet. They're very personable. They definitely get to know you. Like they are very similar to like, those videos you see online where that one person has his bearded dragon with him everywhere they go and it's always on the shoulder. I do have mountain horn dragons I can do that with. Like I could walk around the house with one and he'll just sit there and not move at all, and he'll eat off tongs while he's on my shoulder, and like it's definitely achievable. But I think the setup is not a beginner or easy setup that just anybody can put together. I mean, if you've kept like one or two reptiles and you've been in it for like a year or so, then by all means, like I'm not saying they're a super hard species, but definitely something you need to kind of like know what you're doing first. Before you get into them. Yeah.
I think once you say running war, I think that's when you kind of need that kind of disclaimer.
Yeah.
That you're either going to need to have to put in the effort of spraying these guys and making sure that they're hydrated enough, or you're going to need to set up an enclosure that can sustain them properly.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I think I don't even think that like spraying them, that like even if you sprayed them daily, I don't even think it would be enough.
It's not enough.
Like, they drink.
So I set mine up in the Exoterra Frog and Co, but it was the tree frog, so 45, 45, 60.
Yeah.
With a UVB and then an LED, because obviously that tank is designed for tree frogs, so it's designed to keep humidity in very, very well. You pair that with a paludarium in the bottom, it's just
100% humidity.
The time. And then I was struggling. I was like, right, how do I go about getting this? How do I, and then I ended up having to put fans in the top to run. And then as soon as I got just a little reptile fan pointing down and just down the back corner, just flowing the air that way. But then it completely just calmed everything down. I never used basking spots per se, because obviously those tanks are really difficult to run a heat bulb on. But I did temp gun a few times where my LED was at like where the branch met the LED, and they were getting to a decent temperature. Because my room was so hot, I was worried. I was like, I put any amount of heat on these guys, and I'm going to cook them. That was my biggest worry. So they've definitely been one of, and I've got quite a few different species from, things from like Kimberley rock monitors that like it stupidly hot to tree monitors that obviously have different care. The leptogassers were definitely the one that needed the most thought put into their enclosure, because it wasn't a case of, I'll just stick some plants in and it's grand. It took more.
The running water definitely makes a difference. Yeah.
Once they were set up, they were fantastic. There was no issues with the setup once they were once it was set up, it just was like, right, you need to think about this running water. You need to think about air quality, which is obviously something that gets left out so often in reptile keeping. And then like my guys, mine were funny because if you fed them, I was feeding them locusts, and if the locust was like a centimeter too big, they wouldn't touch it.
Yeah,
It needed to be like they were
size.
eating really small food in comparison. Whereas I'm used to like my frilled dragons will take down anything. Like he doesn't care. He'll whereas these guys, it was like, like their food needed to be a particular size, or they just weren't interested in it at all. They were very curious, very interesting lizards.
Yeah, I actually find that with most of the species of Arkansas, they're quite picky eaters. I don't know if that's just the things that we're feeding them in captivity, or not the things that they're used to eating, and they're just kind of like forcing themselves to so they don't die of starvation, but they're not actually like actively chasing them. But they definitely seem to be picky eaters, and they all have, like, this one really likes his superworms but won't eat hornworms, and this one won't eat hornworms, but you know what I mean? They do have different. Yeah.
Mine would take a mealworm, a small mealworm, if it was tongue fed in front of it.
Yeah.
But it was almost exclusively small locusts.
Yeah,
they were climbing the branches, and they were waiting for them to get very close to their heads, and then they were picking them off, which I think would be quite a natural
thing to do.
Feeding response. Yeah. The issue with that is locusts have got a death wish. You have any water in the tank, they will find it and they will drown themselves. So you couldn't throw in 10 or whatever, because you could drown 9 of them. So you almost had to put it on the branch just below them and watch it go up, and then they'd eat it, and then you could do it again. And
I find the same thing with crickets. Crickets always somehow end up in the water bowl. It's crazy.
Yeah, most insects just looking for that hydration, fall in, and then they die.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting that they clearly have evolved to eat certain foods then. Otherwise they wouldn't be picky. They're obviously not opportunistic in the wild. They're obviously feeding on something if they know they're the kind of animal that know what they want to eat. Because you get a tree monitor that's not eating rodents in the wild will go crazy for a rodent, because it is a truly opportunistic animal, and it doesn't know when it's going to get that, that
good
calorific meal again. Yeah. These seem picky and finicky.
Mine would go crazy for waxworms, and I thought, like silkworms. So I thought that might be kind of like caterpillar-esque type things that were up in trees, and it made sense of what I was feeding them, what they would find.
I've read somewhere, and I can't find this paper, but I read somewhere that their primary diet in the wild is spiders and slugs. And it would make sense that they like grubs and slugs and stuff like that, things that barely move, but are like, they're just happens to pass by them on a tree, like you were saying. Snapping it up. But I wonder.
It makes sense, because if you're trying to feed them stuff that they're not accustomed to eating, that's probably why you're getting that. Like, I don't know why my male Dilophosaurus would only go for roaches. Because in my head, roaches, you're not going to find just running up and down a tree.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be likely to running into stick bugs, katydids, grasshoppers, crickets, that kind of
things that look more like a lotus.
He wouldn't touch any of it. He's touching it now. Yeah. But he'll feed locusts now, but he goes crazy for roaches, but he'll unwillingly take locusts now. And it's like, well, what's going on in your brain then for you to... And it's like baby tree monitors. Everyone's like, they eat stick bugs, they eat locusts, they eat katydids. Even a captive bred baby tree monitor, crickets. They love crickets. So what are they finding in the wild that is just neurologically there? It's just an innate behavior. They're like, oh, well, this is food. And I watched the video actually.
Or is it
do you think it's some type of isopod? Like ones that like in the bark?
I don't know, because I watched a video of a guy with a baby. This was really interesting. This guy had a baby tree monitor, and he had a small bush cricket. So a katydid, a green, bright green, a luminous green katydid, a little one, obviously for a baby tree monitor. And then he had, I think it was a cricket. And he showed it the cricket, and it was like, and he showed it the bush cricket, and it just launched itself. And he took it away and put the cricket in front of it, and it just was a bit like, and he put and this animal just. And I don't know, obviously, I don't know the backstory. He could have been feeding them on bush crickets for about 6 months, tiny little baby. And it just, I don't know. But I found it really interesting that this animal just had this acute instinct to be like, this is food. And that stuff really piques my interest because I'm like, well, where are we going wrong? And like a lot of insects in the wild as well are going to be covered in pollen and stuff like that. Or how does that look under UV light? Does it make our food, their food, because obviously they see differently to us, does it make their food look different? Are we feeding the right food in the wrong colors? Like, there's so many things that we don't know.
That's a fascinating idea.
Yeah, because like beetles, like I didn't realize beetles make sense because I know animals, like for example, birds look different under UV. So obviously they can see each other under UV, whereas we can't. Like if you look at certain magpies or crows, to us, they're black. To each other, they're like green. They're completely different colors. So beetles are the same, obviously. And if you get an animal that's smothered in pollen, the smell, the taste, the texture, the color is going to be completely different. And again, I've been having pretty much since starting the HabiStat job, to be honest, I've been having all these reptile conversations and they're sparking my brain. I'm like, that is so true. I wonder if we just smothered something in pollen and offered it to an animal that doesn't eat, if it would eat it, if it's an animal that's naturally finding animals that are flowering animals. Like, beetles are going to be bees, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to be in and out of flowers, and
we need a pollen dust.
We do need some sort of something like that. But it is that stuff to me I find super fascinating because there's so much we don't know on animals' natural diet. Someone sent me a paper recently of the Indicus complex stomach. There's like 100 animals sampled across multiple different species, peach throat monitors, Indicus, so mangrove monitors, Saulavirens, which I don't even know is a common name to, and there was a couple of others. And it was like 80% of the diet of these bigger monitors, which you'd expect to be avian, rodent, maybe fish, obviously crustaceans and insects, but 80% of the diet was crustacean and insect.
Wow.
80%. That's mental. Like in my head, they'd be taking a lot of eggs, they'd be taking bird, they'd be taking reptiles, they'd be taking amphibians. 80% was it. Jobiensis was 90%, which is peach throat monitors were 90% insectivorous. Mental.
So I went to a talk, an aquarium talk, and there's a guy, Michael Blair, he does a lot of fish collecting years ago, quite a big name. He did a study on discus. So discus are that kind of size, quite a big fish, big mouth, well, reasonable size mouth. And like you're saying, almost all of its stomach contents was microorganisms, like tiny little things. And then you think, because there was talk about the fish food that we feed is quite a big pellet. And you might think that that's a suitable size for your fish, when actually they're used to eating such microscopic, tiny little fragments of food. They're not going out and hunting a tetra. They're not going out and eating other bigger pieces of food. They are eating tiny little things, and that's what's they're eating so much of it that it's making up their diet, rather than, like you say, a big monitor going out and eating a one rat and then being done.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Like ants' nests and just tiny 100 tiny little bugs instead of one giant one.
Yeah.
If you think in rainforests and stuff, you get ants, leafcutter ants, back and forth, up and down, termites, back and forth, up and down, and these animals that are just sat there not moving. And you pick a branch that's a root of a leafcutter ant. They follow the exact same paths. Yeah. I'm not saying they do, but it makes sense. Just blump, 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 blump.
Yeah.
So
free meal, no energy, and you're just getting free food walks. It's like when you're at a sushi restaurant and they just bring it in on a machine.
Yeah, and you just sit there.
This is exactly what it's like.
Yeah. there's so much we don't realize. And again, people in the UK, I feel for Canada and a few other places, because obviously your variety is limited, but people in the UK and Europe, we have so many insect feeders, and the amount of people that just feed roaches is mental. It blows my mind that all we're feeding is roaches. And again, like I say, they're incredibly high in protein and they're incredibly high in phosphorus. So if we're not supplementing correctly, if we haven't got the correct UVI and we're not using calcium, we are literally aiding MVB by Michael, MBD, metabolic bone disease, just by feeding roaches. And we think we're doing the best, but so many issues can cause from just feeding roaches. If not done correctly, if you haven't got good UVB and you're not supplementing high calcium and you're not gut loading your insects properly. And it's scary because people don't know stuff like that. And again, I don't expect people to, but just off the shelf, we have like 7 different species of feeder insect just off the shelf. And it's like variety and mixing this up and figuring out what animals like and changing things and evolving with the animal. And it's all, for me, all basic stuff, but it does scare me sometimes. Like even feeding stuff like worms. Like we never think, oh yeah, let's just feed it worms. So the amount of animals that would eat worms in the wild is mental.
Yeah. Well, you recently put UVB on your roaches as well, didn't you, or in your locusts?
I haven't done it with my roaches. I've done it with my crickets and I've done it with my locusts. Because
did you find any results?
I don't think it's been long enough, but it's been proven that bugs synthesize UVB the exact same as a reptile would. Mm-hmm. So if a bug, any species, is utilizing UVB and then it's turning that UVB into its exoskeleton and calcifying its exoskeleton via the D3 cycle, the same as a reptile would, it's just its internal skeleton, whereas a bug is external. So it works slightly differently, but the bug is thus forth calcifying itself better because of UVB. So when our animals eat these calcified bugs, it's like eating a calcified nugget. You're already increasing calcium without adding calcium or gut loading just by giving UVB. So yeah, I've been giving them UVB. I've been giving them UVA as well. So my locusts have a halogen. So do my crickets. Why not? The crickets during the day sit out under the halogen.
So they bask, huh? That's fascinating.
So I haven't done it with my roaches yet. I'm pretty sure Scandinavian Grinders, I don't think he's here. I think he's working tonight. But he's giving his roaches, or at least the roaches he feeds, he gives UVB for like a couple of days before. Just to give them that chance to sort of synthesize it. There's so much that we don't know and don't do. Yeah. And if I ever end up with like a bug room, if I can ever get a place where I have because at the minute my bugs are just kind of here, there, on top of Vivs, you know.
Yeah, same.
If I can create like a baker's rack and just have a proper bug breeding UVB synthesizing system, I think, because like, do you know what's mental, right? Okay, we're ADHD, baby. So what's mental is we know it. Yeah, we're gonna mix it up now. We know as a species, like we are what we eat. If we eat junk food and crap and rubbish every now and then, it's probably not gonna make a difference to our lives. If we eat it every day, we'll become overweight.
If you live like me.
Well, yeah. This is all I drink. And I've also put on quite a lot of weight in the last few years, so proof's in the pudding. But we know that if we eat junk food, if we drink junk food, it's bad for us. We know that it starts to build up fat around our organs, it starts to build up fat around our our bodies, it starts to clog our arteries, all sorts of stuff. Yet reptiles were like, yeah, we can just feed them bugs. Like, we don't care about what the bug is that's going.
What the bug's eating.
Yeah. It's mental. It blows my mind that people are like, oh no, it'll be fine. Just throw a little bit of like salad in there. And I'm learning recently that obviously carotenoids. And if you think about it, like the more pink, orange, yellows that's in the food, the more your animal is going to be pink, orange, red, green. Yeah, those. And I'm like, well, yeah, that
Absolutely.
makes complete sense. Why am I not doing this? So now everything's going to get carrots, they're going to get peppers, you know, and
Yeah.
shrimp for branids, like pink shrimp to bring out those colors. It's common sense, but also at the same time, it's not, because it's the sort of thing that you overlook. Yeah. So
Have you ever heard of the Atelopus toads?
I think I have, to be honest.
The
Are they
Harlequin
the
toads
pink
or
ones?
something.
Yeah,
they're like
Harlequin.
purple.
Yeah. I know. Yeah,
They are born white and black, and they only get those purples based on how much carotenoids they eat, I believe.
Mm.
So it's exactly what you're saying. It's like the people, like if people hadn't figured out that, then we just have like white and black frogs. But it's they figured out, oh, I gotta feed them this to get the purples out or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, so absolutely exactly what you're saying. It's fascinating. I
was
like the
being
idea of
told
having
about-
the UV on them. Yeah.
I think I was being told about a species of bird, and apparently this species of bird, in breeding season, the males go bright red, but they only go bright red if they're fed carotenoids and are exposed to UVB. If the two don't coincide, they'll still breed, but they don't go red. And it's mental. So you take one, put it outside, start feeding it carotenoid diet. Within 2 or 3 days, it fires up red. Bring it back inside, don't give it UVB, take away the carotenoids, it fires down.
Wow.
Like, if that's happening in birds, how many reptiles are we missing out on?
I'm sure
I forget
tons.
the name of this bird, but yeah, I was shown sort of pictures and images and stuff, and I was like, oh, wow, yeah. And you see it, and you're like, Jesus, is that the same animal? And like, yeah, but that's within 2 days.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's why I regret living in Canada, where I can't keep anything outdoors, because I would love to have to at least, like, even if I wasn't 24/7, just like have a cage you could put the animal out to tan for a little bit and then bring it back in.
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
What have you guys ever heard of like koi? What they do with like koi before competitions? They like put them outside to like tan them and bring out the reds and the pinks before they take them to the competitions. So it's fascinating.
A lot of this kind of, like, you get a lot of color enhancing flake with fish, and it's primarily like what Mike said there. It's a lot of shrimp, because shrimp bring out a lot of red. So
Have you said carrot? You're gonna start feeding them more carrots. Have you heard of this whole thing where it's like if you're feeding them too much carrots, they themselves start getting hypervitaminosis A, and so it's actually bad. I'm still like trying to learn about it, so I don't know too much about it. But I also recently just started kind of getting into the feeder thing, where because I'd have the feeders and I wouldn't feed them anything, but now I feed my roaches, and I see, like, you can almost physically see the size of the roaches, like bigger, better looking, tougher, like. So it's like, like I'm starting experimenting a little bit. I want to try to put UVB on them and see what the difference is. But have you ever heard of this whole carrot thing?
Yeah. But my answer to that is exactly the same as our reptiles. Variety is key.
Variety
you don't feed your insects. You don't feed them just carrots. And also, gut loading is only effective about 30 hours after being fed. Yeah, so it's 24 to 48. So if you go in the middle, it's sort of around that 30 hours. So in an ideal world, if you want to feed on Wednesday, put food in Monday night for your bugs, and then those bugs will synthesize it within the 24 hours, ready to be fed when you get home on Wednesday. But if you're feeding, it's just a little dog.
Yes.
If you're feeding solely carrots for 3 weeks, and then you feed that roach, cricket, locust to your reptile, that bug has only been basically gut loading on that one thing. So that's when you can start running into overdoses of, even the same as citrus fruits and stuff like that, like oranges and stuff like that. You want a staple feed for your bugs. So for example, just different types of salad and leaves and stuff like that, and then you want to gut load with these peppers, with the carrots. And gut loading and feeding are completely different, because obviously at the minute my locusts are just eating dandelions, That's all they're eating at the minute because it's outside of my garden. It's for free.
Yeah,
And that's just
yeah.
a supplement to keep them going because I'm not going to pay for bloody iceberg lettuce or, you know, kale or whatever I want to do. Just to, even then, kale is going to bind calcium if I just feed them on that. There's so much that goes into it. But
Yeah.
just dandelions is what I feed them as a staple. And then when I want to feed some off, and so I know they're still getting, you know, they're getting the flowers and they're getting all that sort of stuff. So they're getting a mix. But when I want to gut load them, I'll make up a gut load and put it in. And then what I'll do is I'll tend to pick off the locusts that have a fat stomach
Yes.
in a couple of days because I'm like, okay, you've probably eaten.
You're the ones that eat it. Yeah.
So that's what I tend to do. But don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near the best. I'm getting a lot better with it because I'm learning the importance of it. But sometimes I just go, yeah, feed you. Sometimes I don't supplement, and because you can't overdose calcium. It's impossible. If you've got correct, if you're giving too much calcium, you'll see it in the urates and the poo and stuff. It will come out white and powdery excess because the animal is expelling calcium. But you obviously can overdose D3. So if you're using calcium with D3 and you have UVB, you have too much D3s, and then that can like mess up the whole cycle. So for me, even if you're a beginner keeper and you've just got one bearded dragon, having a solar meter so you can check your UVI to make sure that calcium cycle is going to work. And I think Ferguson zones, because we're going on a tangent now, I think Ferguson zones are so skewed because Ferguson zone 3 is 2.7 or 2.9 to like 7.4, and then Ferguson zone 4 is like 4.5 to 8, and the overlap is ridiculous. So like if you go, oh, you've got a bearded dragon, Ferguson zone 3, in my opinion, a bearded dragon shouldn't drop below a UVI of 5, but UV is in a Ferguson zone 3, so it can go down to 2.9. Well, in my opinion, it can't because in the wild, it's basking optimal is going to be way higher than 5. 5's
right
median, but because of Ferguson zone, and again, people that are nerds like me understand it, but if you go into a shop and go, yeah, Ferguson zone 3, and that's why I always say UVI of 4 to 6. That's it. Because then you aim for the middle 5.
Give them a range.
That's I get questions all the time. Oh, what UVB do I need? I don't know. How tall is your enclosure? How far away is the basking spot? Like UVI 4 to 6. Well, how do I know that? That's why you need a solar meter, because otherwise you're just guessing, and it's scary because especially if you're trying to breed stuff. As soon as you put eggs and the animal starts taking all the calcium out and you don't know what that UVI is, you can't see that the calcium is being sucked out of the bones. You can't see that until you have a dead lizard. And that is the reality of the whole D3 cycle. And it's proper scary because I've seen what a clutch of 27 eggs to an Aki can do. You know, they look like they've been literally run over. And I didn't ask her to lay that many eggs, and I didn't ask her to lay another 26 weeks later. So it's like, how much stress are you putting on your body? So I need to make sure your UVI is high. I need to make sure your calcium intake is high. So and I need to make sure your food is nutritious. And that's sort of what made me a bit more like, Jesus Christ, I really need to like focus in on this stuff. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit now, though.
No, you're good. I just muted so I can. I guess it sounds like there's a sound from one of us, but I can't tell because someone's asking who's playing the bongos. The bongos.
I've had to swap phones, so this phone's really old, but my other one died. So I'll try and mute myself.
I can't hear anything right now. That's just me to talk now, though, isn't it? Okay, perfect. I'll mute.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So how's that?
I can't hear anything your end.
Okay, nice. It's gone now.
Yeah, no, yeah, fine. So what's made you get more into the whole gut loading and feeder of the insects? What's happened in your life to make that change?
Well, so first of all, the just the conversation being more prominent online. I think more people are talking about it. I think I'm hearing more about it. You've been posting more about it. You know, it's like one of the first things that got me thinking was seeing the story of the UVB on the lotusts. But I did also lose. I did lose 2 gravid mountain horn dragons, and I cannot figure what or why or how or what went wrong, other
Yeah.
than obviously them getting egg bound. And so I'm kind of on that kick of like, are we feeding the right foods? Are our foods healthy? Are we, like, you know what I mean? I'm trying in that problem solving stage, and it's a lot of people are trying to point me towards substrates, and like that it being that the substrates are the bigger issue. But I'm comparing with all the other mountain horn dragon keepers and stuff, and I would be more willing to bet that it's something to do with diet or gut loading or supplements. Are we over supplementing, under supplementing? Are we giving them the wrong supplements? Is there something they're getting out there that we're not giving them? I don't know. But yeah, so that was the big trigger of like, okay, you need to start moving on this quick. Because that sucked.
Yeah. It's like pollen. We're not supplementing pollen. Hang on 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna ask you
Yeah.
actually when you brought it up if you think we should be like dusting with pollen.
Yeah, I think it's your mic as well, by the way, Michael. There is a little bit.
Is it possibly?
Oh,
This filter's not that quiet, to be fair, and I think this phone might be picking it up. So I'll mute and then I'll unmute when I want to talk.
Okay,
It might save me.
Yeah, no worries.
On that, though, really quickly, we've got. Is it nectar? You can buy sachets. Is it nectar or is it pollen that?
You can buy pollen. You can buy bee pollen, and that's why I like the Arcadia Taurus food.
but it comes as pellets.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They're like little yellow pellets that we almost need a dusting powder. If you know a company.
Yeah, if I had an in. No, the optimized 52 is fresh meadow hay and flowers. So there is bee pollen in it. So I use that as a gut load because then the locusts crawl through it and they get pollen on them. But the problem is with pollen, obviously you can't see it. I don't have a black bloody hell. I don't have a infrared
Black light
camera
or whatever. Yeah.
So basically to look at UVB and IRB, so you can see what it would be under a black light in a way. I have bee pollen powder. I can't remember where I got it from. Yeah, you can definitely get bee pollen powder.
I've just gotten the pellets and crushed it up to be a powder. Yeah.
But then I think it's also important to know, because I don't know enough about this yet because I'm still learning myself. But for example, let's just say in the wild, bosque monitors, savanna monitors are known to eat like a giant burrowing cricket. Now, I doubt that cricket
is getting any pollen on it.
Is a pollinator. It will have pollen on it because it's foraging through leaves, and there's pollen everywhere, and that's how we end up with hay fever because it's pollen everywhere. Whereas for something like a hummingbird or a bee or some beetles, they're going to be smothered in pollen. Now, I don't think adding it would hurt, but adding it regularly to a species that's not evolved to process it and eat it, I don't know enough to say if that's going to have an adverse effect. And you'll end up, again, getting whatever element over emphasized and over supplemented. And that's again why I just think literally variety is so key. What we're feeding, how we're changing it up, how many times we're feeding, because I think a lot of our reptiles are overfed as well.
Agreed.
So I think we need to just cut everything down, take it back to basics, because it's very, I think it's incredibly old hat to say, feed your bearded dragon for 20 minutes until it either it stops eating or you feed it solid. Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand. We're breeding a mentality for obesity. And people message me and they go, right, how many crickets should my Aki be eating as a baby? I'm like, well, how ask your Aki.
Yeah.
I don't know. Throw a few in, give it a few days, throw a few more in, give it a few days. If you see crickets, don't add any more.
Then you're throwing too many in.
And then scale it back. And then you'll see. And also, if you throw them in and your lizard's going crazy, great. If you throw them in and it just sort of looks around, you've got two many, you're feeding too much. So again, it's very easy to sit and spill this sort of stuff because I've been keeping for a long time and I've figured this out. But I do think social media, and that kind of brings us onto social media, that's another aspect of your life. But I do think social media needs to be a little bit more careful with what they post. And if we take this to Michael, how do you think, Michael, social media can start to progress to benefit the hobby? And then we'll go to Fadi because it's kind of what he does for a day in, day out stuff.
I think, like social media is really good at getting the general public engaged, like to be able to see what's going on and to experience the hobby or experience anything in life really that they might not know is there or might not know is readily available. Like we've all been on those 1 o'clock in the morning scrolling through some sort of social media platform and you find something that's just like completely random and you're like, that seems crazy to me, but there's a whole community around it. So I think being able to be exposed to the general public, and you see that's why a lot of brands push engagement, or they push like trying to get a lot of social media interactions, because it's not primarily the people that they're not really targeting the people that are already in the space. They want to target people that are out of the space. They want to kind of drive them forward. Saying that, I think when you don't understand the general concept of the hobby, and you see something that might be common to us, but for an outsider, they might go, "What is this?" And an example I give is I had a woman I worked with, and she was like, "Oh, you keep snakes?" I was like, "I've got a couple of snakes," and she went, "All right." And then she was like, "Oh, have you got any photos?" And I showed her pictures of my room, and obviously my room's set up. It's got lots of glass tanks. It's got I've got little information labels. And she was like, "Wow, it looks." She was really impressed. She was like, "It looks like a zoo. It looks like a proper collection." I didn't think that's what it would look like. And I was like, "What do you mean you didn't think that's what it would look like?" She's like, "Oh, don't snake keepers just keep in like plastic tubs?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And she described a typical rack keeper type room just filled with drawers. I went, "No," I says, "that's such a small portion of our hobby." And she was like, "Oh no, that's just what I've seen online." So it's like even people that have got no interest, if that's what they're seeing through social media, then that's the impression they're being left with. So I think it's really important that the people that are putting out content, that are reaching high engagement, have to be wary of what they're putting out, because you could put out all sunshine and rainbows, but if that's not the reality, or you could be like these people that almost put a fear factor, or they want to put a wow factor in every single one of their videos. If that's not the reality, then you're putting almost a false narrative across. I think there's you could talk about social media and the aspects of social media for ages, because I also don't. I also think that these kind of people that put out content for the sake of content, like people that put out care guides because they know they're going to do well and they know it's going to be something that's commonly searched. But I can't remember the terminology for YouTube. I don't do YouTube. The one where it's it can be social, it can be searched multiple times, so you can have a video that's 2 years old that still gets the same engagement because it's something that it stays relevant, and they're making that type of content because they know it's going to do well for their channel. But I think that the best type of content is where you're talking about your experiences and you're putting the information that you've developed across, or because that's the information that can really help people. If it's just the same 5 videos from 5 different content creators all reading the same care guide but in a different tone of voice, then what information is that really giving? I think it's something that you need to be thoughtful about what you're putting out there. I think everybody is, even if you're just posting a video. Like we've seen, Paul, how often, but when it does happen, how a video can just take off on Instagram. And if your 10 second video on Instagram goes viral, if it's not done carefully, I think social media can either be a blessing or a curse. And I think that's kind of, you need to be careful about what you're putting out there and understand what you're doing as well. And then a lot of people just want they see the fame. They see influencers and they think, oh, I want that. I want to be able to do that. But they don't really understand the consequences they can have as well. But
it's hard one though.
Yeah,
because
such a
I
wide
had a
topic.
comment recently. I had a comment on a YouTube. I had a comment on a YouTube video recently, and it said, "Don't." It's about mangrove monitor sort of help advice for mangrove monitors, and the person said, "Don't listen to this guy. He's told you not to handle them. They're never going to be social." I was like, one, if you want a social animal, buy a dog. Two, they're wild animals. Why would I want to force handle a wild animal? Three, I now have captive bred babies that I do handle and I'm trying to habituate. No, you're nothing. Like, you should check out Nerds videos. I said, that's completely fine. Kevin works with Salvatore. They're F7s. They are completely different to wild Indicus. I am one of a few to breed the species and perpetuate them and push out good care. You've watched one video, you don't know me. And then they didn't reply. And it's like, one, why did I even bother wasting my energy trying to explain to this person my credentials? And you get a lot of these little keyboard warriors. And I'd like to consider myself as a good content creator. Like, Instagram, I do quite well. YouTube, terrible. But, you know, I try my best to keep it real. I try my best to push out my opinion, because it's very easy for me to go, for example, prior to this podcast, let's just say I had a different guest and I went, yeah, they're mountain horn dragons, bloody rubbish. I've never kept one. I'm just putting out nonsense. Someone told me that they're rubbish. Oh yeah, well, this guy told me that they're rubbish and they must be rubbish. And then I would come on and talk to you and know that they're great. They're not for beginners, but if you can understand the concepts of humidity and airflow, they're incredibly active, inquisitive. Like, if you can get captive breath. And then I'm like, well, hang on. Like, this guy told me, and then all of a sudden, I've never even kept them. And you're only as good as the person that sort of tells you and teaches you. And I do think we need to be careful about what we're putting out, and we can only put out our experiences, because if we're putting out what Michael's told me about fish, I don't keep fish. I haven't got a clue. So it's not my place to put that out there at all. And I can go, oh, well, I've got a friend. He's really into aquatics. You know, he knows his stuff. Message him. I don't know. And I think a lot of people are scared to say that. But anyway, Fadi, what's your opinion on social media? How can it get better?
Yeah, I think you guys both nailed it. I think exactly what you guys said. It's the biggest problem with it is it is a double-edged sword, right? It's a perfect place for all the extremely experienced people to actually get their opinion out there. You know, a lot of these species that we are working with, we're just starting to work with, and there's almost no information, and so it's in our hands to put it out there. But the flip side of it is, it's just as easy for somebody who has absolutely no idea what they're talking about to gain a huge following through, as Michael said, through like the sensationalization or the wow factor of the animals, and now they have a big following and people are listening to them, and obviously that's going to be a negative thing. I don't know how we fix it. I think so. One thing that, like, my boss at the Expo says all the time, and it's a very important thing, of course, is optics, right? So, yo, Greg.
It's your co-host.
There we go.
Go back to the start. We've got a bit about Wilma.
Yeah, exactly. We discussed Wilma already. You're a little late, Greg.
We'll get Greg on at some point. But for right now, Greg, stop trying to steal the spotlight. Jesus Christ.
I think I'm actually heading to Greg's right after this, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So optics, man, like it's all super important. How we are viewed, and again, this is something Michael already said, but how we are viewed to not only people in the hobby, but people outside of the hobby. Like, they're the people that are going to be causing the problems. They're the people that don't like our hobby. They're the people that don't want us to exist, right? So how we show ourselves on Instagram, how we show ourselves on YouTube, what we are and aren't showing, and how much we're fighting as well. All of that is being shown to, like, other people. So again, I don't know, unfortunately, what the solution to social media is. it is a very powerful tool, but hopefully everyone starts to use it right. You know what I mean? Like not to call out anyone or specific or anything like that, but like, for example, snake feeding videos. They're awesome. I love them. I really enjoy them. Love watching them. But the frequency of them makes people outside of the hobby think that that's all we care about is killing rats. You know what I mean? Like it's all of it comes back to like optics. But yeah. I also think, like I said, like the benefit is that we're all connected all over the world, right? So like we can share information, like even though we're not in the same country, and that's what people need to be focusing on, rather than being keyboard warriors and being like, oh no, you fed it this, you should have fed it this. It's like, how do you know? What makes you the pro, right?
Yeah, my biggest pet peeve, honestly, I hate it, right? So if someone's vegan, cool, more power to you. Fair play. Wish I could be.
I feel like I know where this is going.
No sarcasm at all. Like, I genuinely wish I could be vegan. Obviously I could be. It's a choice, so vegans don't come for me. But if you're going to comment on one of my videos, oh, I shouldn't eat this or I shouldn't eat that, unless you're 100% vegan, shut your mouth. Like, if you eat meat, you contribute to animal murder, death, slaughter. So my lizard / snake needs it. You don't. So unless you are 100% vegan, shut your mouth.
Yeah, and honestly, even if you're 100% vegan, it doesn't relate, right? Like,
of course, it's still irrelevant. But at least I can understand where they're coming from,
right?
Because they're trying to stop death from all animals. I get that. I do completely. And if you don't own a pet, it's like these people that are like, yeah, I'll make my dog vegan. Disgusting. No.
Horrible.
I don't eat fish at all. I don't eat anything that comes out the ocean for my own personal choices. I don't. I still buy it for my lizards because they need it. Just because I, as a human, have made that ethical choice doesn't mean I need to force that stupid opinion onto my lizards that have evolved to eat crabs, shrimp, fish, mussels. So,
exactly.
Like I say, I can understand if a vegan is commenting it because they are trying to protect all life. I get that. I won't argue that. And I can argue it why they need to do it, but obviously I can understand their point of view. But if someone's eating a bacon sandwich whilst going, yeah, your snake shouldn't eat rats. Like, come on, kid. Can you really see what you're trying to do here? Like, and it blows my mind. And I actually say all opinions from Paul.
The chat is, I'm dying right now. First of all, Serenity Dragon Scott, and then I would be saying the same thing too. I would be trying to like distance him from his brand as well right now. But yeah,
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what's wrong. I think I'm saying the truth. Vegans, CrossFit, and daffy. Honestly, I have no issues with vegans. I have no issues with anyone. That's my problem. If I have an issue with someone, it's because I have an issue with someone, not because of they're
wrong, but I have no issue with them.
Yeah. Again, I generally don't care. It's just I don't understand where people. I find this hobby, this industry, is massively hypocritical. Like massively hypocritical. People like. Again, if I'm not here to slate or not, if you keep in racks, you keep in racks. But someone who keeps in racks then go to someone, oh, you don't use UVB. And you're like this internal fighting. You're like, but you're throwing stones living in a glass house. Or you shouldn't be feeding your animal live or whatever the case may be. But then they'll eat meat. And it's like, and no one is willing to be like, oh, just live and let bygones be bygones. Also, don't forget, HabiStat
Paul has glasses.
I don't know what we're on about. I haven't said anything bad. Jesus Christ. Stop talking, Paul. You sound like you have an issue. I'm going to move on, but just to clarify, I have no issues with vegans. I have issues with people commenting on the internet that your snake shouldn't eat meat whilst you're sat there eating meat.
Someone screenshot this. We can cancel Paul officially.
It's fine. I don't care. I'm uncancelable because I'm true to
Paul
myself.
You can't be cancelled if you don't believe in being cancelled.
Well, this is it. I can't be cancelled because I'm true to myself. And if you're true to yourself, then you can't lose. Literally, I was listening to a podcast clip with Jimmy Carr, he's a British, for people that don't know, British controversial comedian. He makes some inappropriate jokes. and he's just done a Netflix special, and obviously he's been cancelled in the past. And he was speaking to someone, and they were like, "Who's Jimmy Carr?" And he was like, "Me." He was like, "No, what does Jimmy Carr do? Who's Jimmy Carr?" Well, Jimmy Carr's a controversial, sort of outlandish comedian. And he was like, "Well, yeah, I guess, oh, Jesus Christ."
I saw that too, and oh no.
Don't start, Greg. I'm not even going to publicly say my opinion on this because it's not worth it. I keep 10 stenodactylus together though. But yeah, and he was just like, and then he was speaking to another person when he got cancelled, and she was like, "What did you cancel for?" He's like, "Well, I told a joke." And when you break it down like that, and you told a joke, and some people got offended. As long as you're true to yourself, then I don't think you can get cancelled. Obviously, don't get me wrong. If your truth is something ridiculous like racism, then yeah, you deserve to be cancelled. But outside of that, I think if you're true to yourself. But anyway.
No, 100%. Also, to add to that, I feel like even when you're getting cancelled by one group of people that disagree with your opinion, not everyone. But anyway, as you said, off the cancelling topic.
I think to be fair, like social media.
Just stop talking, Paul.
I don't care. We're running now. Social media is. I'm not going on cancelling. I'm going on just negative comments. Social media. When I started social media, obviously, same as everyone, I was no one, had no followers, blah, 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 blah. And then I was just 100% myself, unapologetically myself. And I seem to do quite well on Instagram. And then I've made it to the top. And to my knowledge, I'm pretty much top 1% Instagrammers in the reptile space in the UK, which is kind of mad.
That's crazy.
Which is kind of mad. And if there is anyone who has more followers than me, please let me know, because I want to sort of see where I am on the rankings for an ego thing, no other reason.
You're the top regardless. It's not a numbers thing.
Yeah, I'm the best. I'm the best version of myself today. Tomorrow
exactly.
I'll be better. But now I've made it to the top, and I always talk about this, and everyone, Michael especially, goes, "Oh, you sound like such a bloody crybaby throwing your toys out the pram." But it sucks being at the top, man. 5,000 followers is lovely. You get 2 people message you a month and they want some help and they tell you you're great. It's beautiful. No hate. No, it's great. I get to nearly 50,000 and people, I touch wood, I don't get much, but I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm a very open, emotional man. Someone will comment something that doesn't even mean anything, and it just be a negative comment, and I'll be like, "That's it. I want to curl up into a ball and cry myself to sleep." I just, why am I doing this? And it's, do you get many trolls, or you're not really found that side of it?
No, I don't get many trolls yet. I'm also only at 7,000 followers on Instagram, so or just under 8,000.
That's still good though, man. That's good.
Yeah, but when you're comparing to you just said just under 50,000. You know what I mean? Like the frequency.
It's just numbers. It doesn't matter.
No, for sure. Yeah. I just in terms of the frequency of trolls, I think it would
I know
be
what you're saying.
considerably less. Yeah, considerably less than what you get. But every now and then you get them. Like I got one person comment on YouTube video the other day. Something about everything you just said about feeding your mountain horn dragons is wrong. You should be feeding them pinky mice, and they don't spend time in the water. And I'm like, okay, but
they do.
They do, and they're eating and they said, oh, they don't eat crickets. And I'm like, okay, well, they eat crickets, they spend time in the water, and it's just stupid people like that I get. But other than that, no, I'm pretty okay with trolls so far. Also, I ignore people a lot.
Can you do
I
that?
just don't.
Are you good?
What
at
do you
that?
mean?
Because I can't ignore. If I get a comment,
oh yeah,
I ignore it.
I don't even pay
reply.
attention to it. No,
Yeah.
I have unanswered comments from 6 months ago. It's like, you didn't enjoy the video. There's nothing I can do for you. The video's already out. I'm not taking it down. I'm not changing what I said. It's up. It's up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't. I get really upset. I take everything personal.
Yeah. I find it especially with Instagram Reels, because obviously you're seeing 10, 15 seconds of somebody's life.
It's taken very out of context.
I had a video. I think it was a YouTube short back before they were rubbish. Of my leopard gecko eating a waxworm, and I had this person completely berate me because I gave my leopard gecko a waxworm. I just listed all of the food that I feed. And I'm like, you've seen a 10-second video of one lizard eating one food item, and you think that's all I feed? Like, oh, he was going to, like, that's ridiculous. You can't feed those. That is not a good staple. So one, never said it was a staple. It's a video of a leopard gecko, quite viciously, because he's a twat, eating a waxworm with a funny music in the background. Says, how can that describe my entire reptile keeping to you? It doesn't. It's just, and it's these people that seem to, you almost think sometimes they are trolls. Like, they are looking for that response. They're looking, what can I say that's going to really irk someone? Just because that's what they want to do.
That's exactly it. It's trolls. Yeah.
I'm just playing. I want to share this video with everybody. I love this video. This video literally sums up literally everything we're trying to say. It's a crocodile. Nah, mate, it's a log. Do we like the Paul narration? It's a crocodile. See? This is us telling people, like, look, mangroves need dirt. Your forest dragons need running water. No, mate, feed them pinkies. They don't need water. I'm telling you, they need this water. Look, they need the water. See? I'm showing you right now. Look, it's water. Everything's fine. Oh, God, Jesus Christ. Okay, that was me proving my point, and I've got myself hurt over it. But then, thankfully, the troll does then learn that it's a crocodile. And then there's another one. So, there we go. Fun little story time with Paul there. I did warn you, Fadi, this podcast would go everywhere.
Have you ever considered narrating for National Geographic or for some other? Because that was a beautiful narration.
I did, but I can't read, so I applied for the job, and they politely turned me down. They heard my views towards veganism, people on the internet, and they were like, "We can't associate with you." So
can't associate with the Paul's brand.
No, Paul's more he's unwielding. So,
oh, that's funny.
But the problem is now, what happens? We get to this sort of transitional stage, and it's like, well, we just spoke about this sort of stuff, and it kind of just draws to an end. And now it's like, well, there's no direction, so it can go anywhere now, which is wonderful. So, either of you two want to take it anywhere before I take it somewhere else? Michael, you got anywhere you want to go? Fadi, anywhere you want to go?
I just want to add onto your narration. You said in the end, the crocodile, the troll does learn that it's a crocodile. How long do you think before the trolls in the reptile hobby learn that there are crocodiles and they should just believe it?
I think it'll be at the expense of all of us when our mental and when we burn out and we quit. People will take over, and then the cycle will continue. Because to be completely 100% honest, I don't know if I'm going to bother posting YouTube videos anymore. I just can't be bothered. Like, there will obviously will be YouTube videos, obviously. Just this whole once a week stuff. Every Thursday, guys. I haven't got the energy.
Keeping up with the stuff.
Yeah. The podcast is easy enough because I do it live. And once I've done this, that's it. It's done. It's out there. The video's up. It's just done.
No editing, no thinking of thumbnails, no thinking of 100%.
It's done. I have 3 YouTube videos filmed in my phone. And I just can't be bothered. Like, one's a reptile room update, which I know will do well. Can't be bothered. The other one is a thermal imaging camera doing my basking spots, which is actually really cool. And I just can't be bothered. And the other one's a herping video where I found a bunch of wild lizards. I just can't be bothered.
All of those will do well, though. I think the herping one will probably do the worst because for some reason people don't seem to like. Yeah, they don't seem to like watching herping kind of stuff, but. Yeah, man. I don't know. Yeah, get to it. I get it though, because especially like now in the position you're in, when you're like constantly thinking of content for another brand, and then you have to edit content or make content for another brand, and you're like, I just don't have the energy to do it for myself anymore.
Yeah, I just can't be bothered. I mean, I wanted to give up YouTube about 10 times. I'll be completely honest. I just don't. I just don't have the energy for it. Like, I post every day on Instagram, rain, shine. That's the wrong thing is identifying. I don't know what I'm talking about. And rain, shine, bad day, good day, whatever. I'll post a video on Instagram.
But you've also gotten pretty good at, I feel like, just picking up the camera and being like, "Yo, this is what's happening."
Yeah, it was really weird is when I look back on my first YouTube video, it very much is, it's a podcast and it's like, get to know me, and I'm literally in my chair like awkwardly swinging, just
talking
like,
about it. Yeah.
hello everybody, I would like to tell you about my life. I keep lizards in boxes and I think they're happy. And now I'm just like, yeah, vegans. So it's just me. It's, you know,
just please don't cancel me.
I'm uncancelable. You can't cancel me.
Vegans.
Yeah, I
I'm
have no
dying.
issues with vegans. Do you know what the biggest thing I hate with social media, right? The biggest thing I hate, I'm very anti force handling monitors. I don't believe you should go in there, pick them up, let them run through your hands until they're physically exhausted and go, look how tame it is. Oh, it's great. I'm very anti that, right? And because I'm anti that, people are like, oh, Paul doesn't believe in handling monitors. Look at my Instagram. I handle monitors all the goddamn time. All the time.
Yeah.
I just don't believe
there's just a way that you prefer to do it.
Absolutely doing it. And everyone takes it like, and I'll say, for example, savannah monitors are bad pets. I'll be like, they're bad pets. And people are like, oh, no, they're not. They're great pets. I'm like, of course they're great pets for the 1%. But when I'm talking to 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 50,000 people, whoever many people see the reel, and I go, they're good pets, people go, great. Because I can't put context into something that's 10 seconds long. If you start with, they're bad pets, that is the truth. They take a lot of space, they take a lot of heating, they take a lot of feeding, they take a lot of time, they take a lot of maintenance. That's a bad pet. It might be a great pet for somebody like Greg and Wilma. Perfect. But for the majority of people, it's terrible. So people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you said it's a bad pet. Come on now. And then I have to type this long ass reply and explain. And they're like, oh, when you put it like that, yeah, that makes complete sense. And I'm just like, oh, I just can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered. It's just too much for me at the minute. Like with work now being content reptiles, life being content reptiles, Paul's monitors being content reptiles.
It's just all the same thing over and over again. Yeah,
it's just got too much at the minute. And I'm just like, no, I just can't be bothered. I love the podcast. I love just talking, having a laugh. Paul's off on a pool track. Yeah, best believe. I keep messaging Fadi to wait. What?
What's happening?
Mm.
To
answer steno question. What steno questions? We've spoke about.
People are asking steno questions.
Get back to stenos. What do you think people will like? We spoke about this at the start.
I do think.
Were you not listening, Dan?
Do you guys have any tips or things that, obviously I told you I can't read, but things should know about steno keeping? Okay, let's go back to stenos then.
Okay, so let me quickly. So yes, I do think people will start line breeding them. I was speaking to someone at the last Expo that said he wanted to try to only pair together, to only pair all the darker ones and see what comes out of them. I do think that at this stage, they're probably all have very muddy genetics, and regardless of what you pair, you're going to get a very wide mix of babies. But I do think at some point people are going to start line breeding them because there's some with yellow bars on them. There's some with larger size white dots. There's some with smaller size white dots, and the speckling is different. So I do think at some point there will be, like I said, the different lines, different morphs, whatever you want to call them. Different things.
They're still coming in wild caught, aren't they?
Yes.
So yeah, there is that possibility of some sort of morph cropping up as well.
Yeah.
Do you think there's
For the
different
future.
species, Fadi? Like, because I've got some that look completely different, but they're both clearly steno. But the patterns and the colors, one's almost pink and it has like stars rather than bands.
Yeah.
Do you reckon there are different subspecies and they're in a similar collection area, or you don't know?
I don't think. I think the other way around. Actually, I don't think they're different. I think they're the same species, collected in a different area. But I could be wrong. Like I think it's a color pattern thing from different locales, is what my assumption was.
Okay, so you think they are locality based and they are kind of freckled, striped, patterned in accordance to their surroundings.
Yeah, 100%. But I think they just because. I don't know if you've ever seen how many come in, but like 200, 300, 400 of them come in. So odds are they're collecting them from a very big area and just throwing them all into one box and shipping them together. So I would assume that they're just, they collected 30 from here, 40 from here, whatever, and that's why we're seeing so much variety. And
we're still there. So I'll just run through my setup very quickly then. So mine are in a 2-foot viv, so it's 24 inches by probably 20 inches by 24 inches. I have UVB, I have them under a halogen, I have them on sand when I make caves for them. I also have like rocks in there for them to like go underneath. I find they love going under stuff. I find they love to wedge themselves, and I also find that they like to be together, so having stuff big enough for multiple of them to wedge under the same area. I lifted up a bit of slate that was sort of this, and there's 5 of them under there today.
They like to
steno piles. Check out HabiStat to check them out on the social media. I find that they like to dig, giving them the option to be able to dig burrows, which again can take a little bit of work because you have to find the right substrate that will hold a burrow, because dry sand on the top, because obviously you don't want to be wet, but then you also need wet clayey sand to clump. So I find they will eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. So you need to moderate their food because they will eat until they pop. But then at the same time, if you're keeping them communally, you do need to make sure that there are no runts and no stragglers. Yeah, so you need to keep an eye on them. They'll shed sort of whole. I don't know if they eat their shed, but I've never seen sheds, so I imagine they
do eat their shed.
Yeah,
they do. Yeah.
So I've seen them in shed. I've not seen them pull off their shed, but I also don't find sheds, so I assume they eat their shed.
Yeah.
I think don't be scared to cook them. I'm not saying cook them, but give them.
And don't be scared to spray them frequently. I think that's another thing people forget. Like it's humid where they come from, like super humid. So spray them as much as you can. Make sure they always have water.
I've started spraying mine 4 or 5 times a week, but at night. I was doing it once or twice a week, and to be completely honest, it was around the sort of time my granddad passed away. I had a lot going on, and I completely forgot I had reptiles for about a week, 2 weeks. And
that happens for sure.
Yeah. So again, just to sort of a bit of background information on it, and Fee sprayed the little stenos during the day because I said to her, "Can you just help me deal with the reptiles, please? I'm not really, Anyway, so she sprayed them, and I've not seen it before because it went so long without spraying, and they all ran out, and they were all like, and I was like, Jesus, man! Like I didn't realize how bad. Like it still had water dish and stuff, and I was like, oh, so I've started spraying them a lot more. Like just as the lights go, like for example, I'll come down after this podcast, I'll go and I'll spray them like heavy. But I use the hand mister, not the pump misters, because it's a lot finer mist. So it doesn't soak them; it just makes it humid plus gives droplets. So that's how I do mine. And they seem to be doing well. They're all gravid, like they're humongous. So I think I'm doing it right, and that's how I keep mine at the minute. But I've only had them September last year, so I've not had them long. So I'm still new to the species myself, but good UV and a good halogen, and I think they're good to go.
Yeah, and they're super active. They'll come out like you said, and I'll do the same thing as well. Where like I try to spray them as often as possible, but then I'll go away for like 3-4 days for the Reptile Expo, and by the time I come back, the water bowl is dried up, and they haven't sprayed in 3-4 days. And the second I spray them and fill out the water bowl, everyone comes running out, and it's like water. Like so, they definitely appreciate it, and they definitely very much so love the water, the humidity. Yeah.
Do you where I can? I think you said you're in the UK. Me soon. You're not in the UK? You shaking your head? What's going on? I don't know.
I was just laughing at the self promo.
It's a good move.
Why are you going to buy from anyone else in the UK?
It's true. And if you're in Canada, come buy from me.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a list though.
This Dion guy, forget him.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's
funny.
I love Dion. He's great.
Yeah,
I don't want people to take me and take me like normally. Like, oh my god, Paul doesn't like vegans and Dion.
I
love both of them.
It's just gonna be clipped, and that's the only thing that's gonna be shared to
that's it.
Instagram.
Yeah, someone send it to him.
But there's a bio reel right there.
Paul's monitor calls out Dion.
Oh, Kaz, it was one of this. Oh, Dion, please love me. No, he's cool. We speak. He's cool. Generally. Anyway, that's just sarcasm for people that don't understand. Sarcasm. Right. If you can have a cat, you can have a Savannah. What, a Savannah cat, Greg? Come on now. Long live the Savannah monitor. You're biased, Greg.
We are working on that video, Chelsea. It's just we both have super busy schedules, so we are working on that video.
I'm behind.
Yeah.
The access area sounds desert to map tunnels, but nobody has the substrate.
Oh, Chelsea, reach out to me about the substrate after the episode. I think I may know where you can find it from. Yeah.
What's your opinion on Pictus geckos?
They are awesome. I wish they were more popular. I have a pair. I have a baby. I have babies. I have people buy my babies. Nobody wants to buy the babies. Nobody wants to. It's unbelievable, man. I sold like my local reptile store, Critter Jungle, has had one of my babies there for over a year. They're an inexpensive gecko. They're super awesome. They're cool patterns. They're like a larger size. They're not as cool as stenodactylus. I'll never give them that like honor, but they're like a larger size stenodactylus essentially. And yeah, I think it's there when you get into that field. Okay, there's kind of like a lot of those like geckos that look similar and act similar. So I find them very similar to like the Colionics or those kind of things. So I don't know. The Tokay guy we watch.
Yeah. The one that goes, "Hi friends, the question of the day." That one.
Paul,
I
I
think
think
we
we
watch it.
I'll make sure to heart it, and you.
I'm being sarcastic. He knows that I love him. He will know if she sees him. Yeah.
Pick this thumbs up to end it there. Yeah.
Right, is there any other questions? Because everyone's attacking me for not having questions. Are you all keeping bumpy? Yeah, we're keeping bumpy.
Who's bumpy?
For now. For this week.
Boss monitor for this week, yeah. There's some stuff. I'm not going into it publicly, but there's some stuff going on in my life which has completely turned my life upside down. So I don't have a clue what's happening at all. But if we can keep bumpy, we're keeping bumpy, yeah. Rides a moose around. Are you talking about Dion? Yeah, we keep bumpy. Yeah, I don't know.
We all ride moose around over here, by the way. That's just how Canada rolls.
Mooses.
We've got.
It's funny because I grew up in.
It's moose and moose. I think it is literally just moose and moose.
I think yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's
like
I grew up in the Middle East, and everyone used to ask me all the time, "Oh, do you ride camels around?" And then I moved to Canada, and everyone's like, "Oh, moose," and I'm like, cars exist everywhere. I swear.
that must have been strange though. Like you just sort of move, and then all of a sudden the camels have just got substantially bigger and I guess hairier to deal with.
Yeah, it's more so it went from like positive 40 degrees to negative 40 degrees. That was probably the biggest change.
Isn't there a place? I saw a clip about it. I think it was Canada, but I could be wrong. And basically, there was a killer whale that was eating a moose. That a moose would dive down to like feed on like some plants at the bottom of the ocean or something like that. I don't know how true it is.
I would not know, but that's sick.
Yeah. And apparently a scuba diver saw a killer whale eat it. Apparently. I don't know how true it is, but
okay, I feel like that story is getting a bit
yeah, that's what I'll find it and send it to you. Because I remember watching it going, really? Because obviously there's no footage, it was just a story. But
someone talking, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if it was diving to the bottom of a lake to eat, algae or kelp, that would make more sense. But then you wouldn't really run into a killer whale there, would you? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
neither do I. I remember. I can't be asked to Google it now, but I do remember seeing it.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a random story. Anyway, any more questions? I won't ignore you, chat, but we're going to start wrapping up in a bit because we've been talking for 3 hours. We have 2 wrap-up questions at the very, very end. There's a population of killer whales that eat mammals, including moose. See?
Oh, wow. Wow, I
I'm
was
on about.
wrong. Wow.
Facts, mate. Thanks for
That's
backing my
wild.
crazy self up, Chelsea. I appreciate you.
Wild.
I think I was something silly like there was like I watched like a cartoon video of it depicted, and it was like this scuba diver like swimming around, and he saw like a moose, and he was like, Jesus Christ, like, oh, like obviously it's animated cartoon, and then out of nowhere this killer whale just comes and eats this moose. I was like, what have I just watched? And apparently it was true. So yeah, anyway. Anyone, Michael, direction, any more questions you want to go into this?
No, sorry, I'm just replying to chat now.
No, that's fine. It's good.
I've touched on what I want to talk about. So
it went a little bit able towards the end. So Fadi, before we wrap up, then, what's your sort of next 12-month plans? Have you got any plans where your collection wants to go? What you're planning on doing with the social media, with the hobby as a general, or are you just sort of winging it?
Yeah, winging it is majorly what we're doing, but I do plan on. I've been saying this for like over a year now, but I do want to kind of downsize the collection a little bit. Build nicer tanks for everyone, have less animals, more focus on the animals. And when I was doing a lot of this, I was going through school or not working, and then over the last year of like being full-time working, it's way too much. So that's the focus. I am also clearing out my fish room for a really cool mountain horn dragon semi-greenhouse semi-project. So stay on the lookout for that, but I don't know how soon that'll happen. But it's probably the biggest thing I'm excited about, and probably will take up at least six months, if not more. So that's kind of where I'm clearing things up to make space for that now. Is where I'm at. Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. Any outside of the forest? I keep calling them forest dragons. Outside of the mountain horn dragons, is there any species that you would like to start to work with?
Yeah, I've been starting to keep more and more snakes, and I've been very interested in children's pythons recently. So as soon as I can afford to get my hands on a pair of children's pythons, I think that may be the next move. Once I'm done downsizing and I'm happy with where I'm at and re-upsizing, I guess that's probably where because like I said, I have 10 mountain horn dragons coming in very, very soon, and there's going to be a lot of work happening, so I need to wait for all of that to be over first. Yeah.
I used to keep Stimson's pythons, so pretty much the same thing. I think they might be awesome. the same species as children's now. I think they've been reclassified.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
antares, they're cool.
Antares, yeah, they're awesome.
Cool snakes. Yeah, I really like house snakes as well.
Yes,
they're almost like Antares, but they're not they're clubrids, but they're almost like the African version, and they fill the sort of same niche. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wendigos are cooler. I'm getting a massive Wendigo tattoo. There's a fun fact for everybody.
That's awesome.
My whole right, what's the word? Thigh is going to be a Wendigo.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty. Well, it's pretty morbid, but I like it, and it goes with my mermaid that's trapped in my skin because I'm edgy like that. So all of Fadi's links are in the description, but if you want to give yourself a little shameless self plug, and then we'll get into the wrap-up questions.
Daffy's Reptiles on all social media platforms. You can find me literally everywhere, and Daffy's Roundtable for the podcast. So I try to release an episode every Monday. Sometimes I miss it and it goes out on Tuesday, but we try to be a weekly podcast. So come check us out. And new merch on the way. I haven't released the podcast yet, but I am working on some cool stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
And for those people that haven't seen it, I did Daffy's podcast. So if anyone's interested in checking that out, then Paul missed what is calling Spokeless for an emo ban. What, because of my hair? Or just because I like Wendigos and I'm edgy? Anyway. So the 2 wrap-up questions are, What's one piece of advice you'd give someone joining the reptile hobby?
Don't necessarily think that because there are lists of beginner species online that you have to pick one of those species and that those are the only species you can work with as a beginner. If you do your research and like really properly do your research, any species can be, well, not any species, but a lot of species can be good beginner species. And I feel like a lot of people get trapped in this, like, I got to get started with a cresty or a ball python or something. And then they get pulled into this loop and now they have this animal that they're just kind of not happy with. So yeah, do your research, obviously, but anything can be a good beginner species. Yeah.
Yeah, sound. And then the last question always changes. It always changes. So today's rendition is going to be
Okay.
it all means more or less the same thing, but I always word it differently. And I used to word it like what's one piece of advice you want to like instill into your kids, or like what's one piece of advice you'd like to leave behind, and everyone's like, oh, it's so morbid. So what's one piece of advice that stuck with you? Doesn't have to be reptile related, just in life. What's the piece of advice that stuck with you?
Okay. So it's not reptile related, but it's a quote or a saying my mom used to say is I don't know how to translate this into this. But essentially it's the person that's sad punishes himself. So try to stay positive always. Like that's what I say. Stay positive, people. We need more positive people. And that's both online, stop being keyboard warriors, and in people when you're like dealing with people. We just need more positivity in general. So I know it's a very cliche and a cheesy one, but I'm gonna go with that one.
No, and obviously I don't know you well. We've spoken a few times of bits and bobs, but every time I see you on the internet, you always seeming very, very upbeat. So I feel like you live by that. Yeah.
I try to. Yeah.
No,
only good. Greg gets to see the other side of me.
I mean, he just gets out his therapy lizard Wilma and settles everyone down.
Problem solved.
on the savannas really quickly, I had a few people over a few weeks back now, and everyone's calling it the UK Monitor Fest. It really wasn't. It was like 10 people at my house, if that. And someone brought over a bunch of like little rat pups that were left over because they no longer keep snakes, and they had a bunch. So I offered one to my boss, Bumpy, and Bumpy's never had a rat before in her entire life, ever. So I offered it to her, and normally she's quite gentle and she'll take from her hand, and she launched herself for this rat pup, got my thumb, and I pulled away and let go of the rat pup and almost hit this guy's girlfriend who came over in the face with this rat pup, because Bumpy was like, whoom! I was like, Jesus Christ, Bumpy! And this rat pup went flying, like she got my thumb. It was a whole ordeal. So yeah, there you go. Well,
that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, I didn't expect it because normally she's pretty slow and gentle and deliberate, and she just came running out for this rat. I was like, oh my god. Paul, did you see the video I posted of when we eating a crab for the first time? I don't think I did. Did I?
Wait.
Go back and
I'm hearing the bongles now.
Though that's every time Fadi moves his mic, you get a little.
All right.
Oh.
But also your background is like a.
Yeah. That's why I'm keeping it muted. But I was just hearing the bongos going. I was like, oh god, I'm hearing them now too.
Oh, sorry about the bongos then. My apologies.
Honestly, I feel like me and this girl are going to break up. Jesus Christ. She's so nasty to me. I don't know. I think it's good that I have her to keep me in check, because the internet's like, yeah, Paul's monitors, yeah. And Fee's just like, you're a piece of shit. Like, you don't deserve nothing. Burn. I'm like, oh, okay.
Next she'll be slagging off Mango.
Oh, mate. What, me or her? She bloody hates Mango. She'd make me sell Mango tomorrow. Anyway, Michael, thanks for co-hosting. Fadi, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem.
For sure.
Oh yeah, all links in the description. Everyone join Stenodactylus gang. We need to create some sort of merch before bloody Dion does it, because he's gonna do it first.
I'm working on a design, but let's actually talk about doing something like that. That's a good idea.
We'll do Steno gang.
I'm down.
Yeah, we'll get some sort of stenodactylus merch. I'll have to reach out to my artist man and get him to do a little stenodactylus gecko.
I'm so down.
But yeah, everyone, thank you. Check out Fadi, check out Michael. All links are in the description. I think if they're not, someone please tell me, but I'll put them there. But I'm pretty sure they're there. Thank you for all spending the last 3 hours and 10 minutes with us this evening. I have a podcast next Sunday, flying solo with a guest. We will not be joined with Michael's beautiful face. Expect the conversation to get deep and dark in towards the depression stuff, my favorite subject. So carpet pythons and depression is what we're doing next week, everybody. So if you're here for it, you're here for it. Serenity Dragons coming in last minute with that funding. Woo! Clip it.
Add vegans.
Bloody. I don't hate Diane. Jesus, what has my life become? I bloody hate the internet.
Paul, what would you do now if Diane messaged you just like completely out of character and just called you out?
It was like, Paul, you fucking prick. But Diane, whoa.
But in a really happy, cheery voice. But just like,
it would be,
You know
it'd be
what?
like, hey, friend.
Yeah, really passive aggressive. I think I'd be upset because genuinely, I really, really like his content. And I think he's great. So if he messaged me over me being stupid and sarcastic, like you're a twat, I'd be like, oh, and vegans.
And vegans.
I'll take the money. I'll do anything for $2. I hate vegans.
Include getting cancelled.
What's happening? Both of my favorites. Thanks, Paul. Yeah. What vegans and Dion? Mine too. Anyway, Fadi, thank you so much for spending this evening with us, my friend. I've really
Thank you very much
enjoyed
for having me.
your time and your wisdom and insights on these kind of peculiar, weirder, rarer species. Something I did. I mean, we're kind of transgression now. I'll touch on this quickly and then we will wrap up. Canada's quite hard to get things in and out, isn't it? Like, as in getting animals, or is it not too bad?
It's not too bad. Animals wise, not too bad. Yeah, it's mostly feeders that are the issues. I think as long as it's honestly, Greg would probably be a better person to ask about this, but I think I think as long as it's you have the permits, then and it's not I'm not it's not too hard. It's not too hard. Yeah.
Even cows eat meat. Well,
it's true.
I feel like that's a great place to end it.
Yeah. On me being clueless, of course.
That's it, done. Thanks for tuning in. Except I don't know what's going on. Greg will be on at some point. I haven't even asked Greg. Greg, if you're still here, you're more than welcome to come on at some point. We can talk varanids and different bits and bobs, and we can ADHD out like we've done today. I did warn you this goes everywhere, but this is why I don't.
Fun, man.
That's why I don't script my podcasts, because I'm a very fluid individual. Hell yeah! So the Canadians are feeling it. Right. Anyway, I am going to go. Otherwise, I'm never going to go. Thank you all for tuning in. Everyone, check out Daffy's Reptiles Roundtable podcast, social medias. Check out Michael. He does 1,000,001 things. If you're in the UK, check out his Facebook page for the admin Streamers UK. If not, check out me. Join the Patreon. Thanks for giving me your money. Love you all. Bye.